Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. It is Hump Day, my friends. Hump Day. And we are going to have a great show talking about JFK and the mysteries of the day in Dealey Plaza. Winnie Schrader is here from the great podcast, Mysteries, Mayhem, and Merlot. I'm sure we could figure out her favorite wine after that title. We love Winnie around here. Yeah, we do. Literally, you know what? I will say this about Winnie. She's one of those people where she's like, messages me. She's like, hey, Dave, can I come on and talk about the JFK thing? Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Love her. Love her. And the best part about tonight, we have all of you, including Race Fan in the gold medal position, SJ with the silver, Kitty Caddywhack with the bronze medal tonight. Frankie B, how you doing? Good to see you. Robert Lamoth. And what's that? Little Timmy James is in studio. How you doing, Timmy? Good. Barb Madison, Fast Hemi. How you guys doing? As we continue on with our roll call, Eternity Eternal, Galactic J, Kathy Evans. And did I say Ethanol? Ethanol is here as well. Joanne is here. Joanne will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind, to the left of the studio. Mel WD-40 is here lubing us up for tonight's show. Because when you're talking true crime, you always want to go into a show nice and smooth. You don't want any of that rigidness, especially if there is snipers up in the library, whatever the hell that building's called. All right, moving on. Mama Catherine's here. Mwah, I love you, Mama Catherine. I hope you had a wonderful day, and I hope we'll make this show good for you as well. All right, Pony Pong, how you doing, my friend? Good to see you. Major Lee, good morning. And Major Lee, thank you for kicking off the Super Chat tonight. We really do appreciate the love. It's a great way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. Little Timmy James is here in studio. The gorgeous and talented Kira. Nice to see you here, my friend. Can't wait to see you at UFOCon 2025 in San Francisco, April 4th to 6th. Get your tickets at UFOCon2025.com. Necessary Dialogue, how you doing? And who's next? Tux and Mufon, good to see you. As we continue on with our roll call tonight. Up next, Lee the Bee. How you doing? Doug Shelby is here. The Doug Shelby has arrived, which means we can officially start this show. Digger Dog is back. Digger Dog will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind, to the right of the studio. Xanos, Cosmic Joe, good to see you guys. Hi there, Operation Shutdown. And who's next on our list here? Scrolling on down, we have Mark with a K. Yep, Mark is here. Walter Kochabinski, good to see you. And Algaray over on Twitch. So excited to talk about this topic tonight. He did 1,400 push-ups in 8 minutes. Arms are jacked. Totally jacked for this show. Scrolling on down, we have Cable Guy Matt is here. Remember, if you see Cable Guy Matt, hit him up for your free piece of coaxial cable, courtesy of Cable Guy Matt. You cannot buy these in stores, people. No, you have to hit him up personally. I saw Cable Guy Matt at the hockey rink tonight. Yeah, His daughter figure skates right before my son goes on the ice. Love Cable Guy Matt. Phil the Stalker, how you doing? Chris Hazard, welcome to SOR Chat. You're up this late because we're an awesome show. That's why you're up. Matthew Goodka, nice to see you. And let's get the radio side going. Hello and welcome to the radio and podcast side of Spaced Out Radio. Tonight we're talking the JFK files. True crime reporter Winnie Schrader is here from the podcast Mysteries, Mayhem, and Merlot. We're going to get into that momentarily. We are on roll call with our YouTube audience. Richard Hauser, how you doing? Matthew Goodka, good morning. Body Tech, and Marty Burback, how you doing, my friend? Good to see you. Scrolling on down as we are running out of time, because we're going to have to get this going. Good morning, Ian McFadden. How are you? And who else is next here? Kevin Kennedy, nice to see you. Brian Brito, good to see you. And Jessica S. Bella the Boo, welcome to SOR Chat. And yeah, what's that? Tim James, did you give Davey the shit? Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Throw those horns up. Let's rock. Mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world. This, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I'm your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out, Bumblefoot, read the news, wire, check out our streaming as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Spaced Out as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Child Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Child Charities today. You can find them on our website. We got a great show of true crime tonight. We're looking into the JFK files. Yeah, true crime reporter Winnie Schrader is here from the podcast Mysteries, Mayhem, and Merlot. We're going to get into her and the stories momentarily. Then in hour number 3, Swamp Dweller is here with another creepy story. Then little Timmy James, who's in studio, will be here with the UFO report. All right, let's get right to it, shall we? Winnie Schrader is a passionate podcaster and true crime researcher known for her insightful and thorough investigations. With a deep fascination for the complexities of criminal cases, Winnie dedicates herself to uncovering the truth and shedding light on unsolved mysteries. Through her podcast, she combines a sharp analytical mind with a storytelling style that captivates her audience, leading them through chilling cases with clarity and respect for the victims. Her research is both extensive and meticulous as she dives into cold cases, interviews experts, and uncovers hidden details that many may overlook. Winnie's commitment to uncovering justice and her ability to present complex information in an accessible manner has earned her a dedicated following. And she called me up a couple of weeks ago, said, Dave, it's time to come on and talk those JFK files. I said, okay, we can do that because I'm just that guy. I am totally that guy. Winnie Schrader, it is great to have you back on Spaced Out Radio. How are you, my friend?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on again.
Anytime you want. You know that. You know that. And it's always good to have you here. You notice how quick, this is the pull you have around Spaced Out Radio Land. You notice how quick you're like, and can we talk about JFK on your show? And I'm like, yep, date. Here's the date. What do you like? And you're like, let's do it. And boom, we're in. We're in just like that. It happens that quickly.
Yep. Well, I mean, I had to bring up the topic because, recently, Trump signed the executive order to have those files fully released. They haven't come out as of yet that I don't think of. I think some have been coming out like little bits and pieces, but they're still going, the US Department of Defense and everything, they still have to go over all these documents. I think they found like 2,300 pages of documents that they have to go through.
I wouldn't want that job. I
No,
wouldn't
it
want
doesn't
that
sound like a
job
fun one,
because
does it?
there is some brand new researcher who's getting paid like $12 an hour trying to get the work experience on their resume, who's going to have to go through all of those and then take it to their manager, who has to take it to their boss, who has to
Yeah.
take it to their boss, and so on and so on. Remember the hair commercials? And so on and so on
And
and
so,
so.
yes, it's the infinity mirror. But one thing that I've been interviewing an author who's done extensive research on this as well, and he's in New York, uh, best selling book author and everything else, and the way he kind of looks at it, and he's a former police officer, and he's looking at it more of like a police case versus, incorporating all this other, conspiracy and conjecture into the story. And, just kind of going through this, it's really got my gears spinning and digging deeper into this case. And, a lot of honestly, I think the works of everything happening up to November 22nd, 1963, it started long before that. And, you know, when we start talking about the actual like kind of the timeline of everything with these documents, I don't think it's going to be more salacious than it is information wise, if that makes sense. If the CIA had anything to do with the assassination of President Kennedy, it wouldn't be written down. It wouldn't be on paper. So that kind of got me thinking, okay, so how else can we figure this out? And just kind of looking back at history kind of got things going for me, and I started piecing the timeline together and some of the stuff that was happening prior to his assassination.
Very cool. We're going to get into that here a
Hmm.
lot tonight over the next hour and a half. But first, for people who may not have heard you on the show previously,
Hmm.
how did you fall in love with wanting to do a podcast on true crime? Your podcast name, Mysteries, Mayhem, and Merlot. I mean, this is a subject that there are so many cases that are out there, millions of cases that you could choose from. What made you fall in love with this field of study?
Um, a lot of times, especially in today's world, media can spin anything and make people believe what they say. And a lot of times I see cases like the Kennedy assassination and things like that. It doesn't seem logical to me. I look at cases in a very logical manner. And kind of, a lot of times when I'm piecing together cases, um, you always see of those types of like where it's hearsay and things like that, but a lot of those little pieces do play a part in the actual case, in the outcome of a case, or an event like the assassination of JFK. But with the files, I was so excited, and then I was, because I've been a passionate JFK, you know, not expert, but I just, armchair detective, anything JFK, and just looking at it on the surface, I don't think we're gonna really find out who actually killed him. I think we're gonna find out more of the women he slept with in the report. But and who knew what, and but things like that can help you kind of piece some breadcrumbs down a trail to another possible outcome or another possible theory. I don't go from 0 to 60 without taking logical steps in between. So I kind of take things in chunks, and my passion for true crime. I was a weird child. I've always been kind of a weird child. I was watching documentaries on behind the music on VH1 and, true crime documentaries and stuff that you would see on the History Channel or whatever, while my friends are watching, cartoons and going out to movies and stuff. Uh, but it really hit home to me when I was in a very abusive relationship in high school, and it put me into a victim's shoe. And not to say I'm a victim as in victimizing myself, but it put me in a mindset of knowing what it feels like to be victimized, knowing what it feels like to be violated in any way. So I can kind of see that I can empathize with a victim more when I do true crime now than I probably would if I didn't go through that experience in high school.
I love it. I think it's absolutely great that you have found a passion for
Yeah.
this very important topic and a lot of these true crime type stories. Outside of JFK, what's your favorite type of case to track down?
Ooh, I really one that I really I still delve into a lot is the O.J. Simpson case. That one was kind of a huge one because I lived through it. I remember watching the Bronco chase. I remember watching the news reports and everything, and the Menendez brothers. Um, but those ones I really like to glob onto because it's not just the celebrity of it all. It's there's so many like what ifs. What if this happened? Who could have done it? And it's still kind of unsolved. Those are the cases that really I'll go back and watch documentaries over and over again to see if I've missed something, see if I heard something. And I just watched the Fox Hollow Farm documentary. Whoa. Um, yeah, that one left me feeling a little weirded out after watching it, and that's not easy to do for me. But I just like that kind of unsolved, not um, no conclusion or closure to the cases. So those are the kind of cases I really like to delve into because I like to come up with my own theories and things like that.
Do you, when you are investigating, just pick one case at a time and then kind of go hard on that to find out as much as you can? Or are you trying to balance numerous cases at once?
I usually focus on just one case. Now there, with things that pop up in the news and things like that, I'll try and, sometimes I just go off in news reports and things like that because that's all I can do. But yeah, when I go into a big case or, serial killers or just unsolved murders and things like that, I really give it my 100% to each case that I do. So that way I make sure that I give an informative yet entertaining show each and every Sunday.
How has starting your podcast, Mysteries, Mayhem, and Merlot, kind of changed the way you take a look at everything?
Um, it it really well, I've always had this kind of mantra that I go by, but yeah, not looking, don't take things for what they are, for what you hear. Always dig deep, do your own research, look and see if things don't seem right to you. Your gut's probably telling you something. And sometimes those trails that you go down lead you to nowhere, but it also gives you the education on how to follow those gut feelings and to learn to investigate something in your own way. Because some people learn different, some people absorb information differently than others. So, but when it comes to true crime, there's so many facets um, that you can talk about, whether it's corruption, political, corporate corruption, like big pharma. That's been a huge issue, with the opioid crisis. Boeing or even the aviation airline industry right now. I don't know what's happening there. So like I'll pull like some of that stuff and just kind of go over the news, but um those are the kind of stories I do like to give information wise to my audience as well. Like if something important pops up in the news, I do like to discuss it. And I'm hoping down the road here I can kind of do more of some like live stuff. That way I can get audience interaction as well.
How important is it to bring these cases to light? Because as someone who's worked in mainstream media, the one thing that I know is, the media will go hard on a case, for the first couple of bit, then it goes absolutely quiet until the
Mhm.
court cases start happening, and they seem to drop it from there once the sentencing is done. For you, you kind of dig into a lot more of the different type of mysteries that if somebody goes missing or somebody, you know, uh, a murderer can't be found, that's where you're kind of hitting home, trying to keep these mysteries going. Whereas maybe the police and the media have already dropped the case.
Mhm. And it's not only just even current ones. I even like to go back to some of these older cases, especially when it comes to the psychological aspects of it. Because what did we not learn from Jeffrey Dahmer that we're not applying today to help people so we don't have those issues? It's kind of like I kind of like to see the psychological aspect of older cases. Now, I like for Jeffrey Dahmer, for instance, I almost feel like if he would have got the mental health that he needed at the time, we would have not had 1991 and the extraction of body parts from his apartment. It's little things like that that I even like to go back and examine and take a look, say, okay, what did we learn from Jeffrey Dahmer's behavior as a serial killer that we can apply and learn the warning signs and things like that so we can prevent those things from happening in the future. Same thing goes with school shootings. What are we not learning that it keeps on happening? You got to keep looking back at what happened so you don't repeat history, right? So that's why I also like to delve into the history of things as well.
Well, I think too that, I know the American penitentiary system is much different than ours here in Canada, where
Hmm.
Canada it is about, more rehabilitation. Doesn't matter how bad it is, and hey, there's some people who don't deserve to get out of jail ever.
Hmm.
Whereas in the U.S., it's more about punishment. And it
Yeah.
often makes me wonder because I don't know the statistic, I don't know the reality of this, maybe you do, about whether or not a lot of these, especially serial killers are studied. Are they going through the rank and file of psychologists, psychiatrists, trying to figure out what made them them? What was the bomb that blew up in their brain that made them feel that this was something that they had to do? Whether that is a school shooter, or whether that is a man who preys on women, whatever that case
Hmm.
may be. And it seems like, in my opinion, there's a real lack of study over that because nobody ever talks about that.
Well, and that was I don't know if you ever watched the drama series Mindhunter on Netflix, but that was kind of the whole start of the FBI. They created this group of psychologists and things to study serial killers back in the I think it was 70s, 60, late 60s, 70s. Michael Douglas, I think is his name. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, he was kind of the inspiration, and he's the one that kind of created that behavioral science of the FBI and going around talking to these serial killers and some of the things that they uh, came up with to help profile these people. I mean, we're talking people that have lived, either very vile, horrible, abused lives, and there's people like Ted Bundy who had a normal childhood, who had, so it was kind of like really hard to decipher what went wrong and what was the catalyst that caused it. So, but they did get kind of a scope of the mind of somebody that is a sociopath, a psychopath, and that can just snuff people out with no issue, you know. So they have done that, but I feel like they don't profile. I think they need to change the way they profile criminals because our behavior has changed. And I think that a lot of people now, especially with social media, we don't look at each other as people. We look at each other as memes. We look at each other as avatars. We look at each other as a profile pic that we see on Instagram. We don't humanize ourselves anymore. So attacking another person, I feel like we're raising a whole generation of sociopaths at times. It scares me, but so I just like to get the education, especially the mental health part of it as well, because that plays a huge part in true crime. Because the majority of serial killers, they have terrible, terrible, undiagnosed, untreated mental disorders.
Is every case different?
Oh
Or are
yeah,
there similarities? And I know every case is different, but is
yeah.
every say serial killer different in the fact that what they do, it's their personal choice they've made, or is there any sort of pattern that kind of goes along that has been found in between these guys?
Uh, the especially with men, because female serial killers are not common at all. I mean, they have happened, you know, but they're not as common as men. Usually with men, a lot of psychiatrists and psychologists say it's because they didn't get the nurturing from their mother that they needed, especially as an infant. For instance, if you've watched the new OJ documentary, Manhunt on Netflix, one thing that the reason why I think OJ was so violently abusive towards women was because when he was born, his brother was born probably about almost a year. I mean, it was almost like having Irish twins. You know what I mean? You almost have two kids in the same year. Uh, OJ was still nursing, but when his brother came along, she stopped nursing OJ at about a year old and started nursing um, for his brother. So I've talked to some psychologists about it, and they've said probably the reason why he is so hateful and violent towards women because he's afraid that he's going to be rejected by them, like his mother did with his brother, that he's afraid he's going to get replaced. Now, if you know the events of the O.J. Simpson, the night that Nicole and Ron Goldman died, they were at O.J.'s daughter's dance recital. They were all going to go to a restaurant afterward, the Mezzaluna, where Ron Goldman worked at. They told OJ, "You're not invited." That was the moment OJ knew he could not get Nicole back, that she has moved on and he will be replaced. And I think that's what set him off that night.
I often wonder about that case, because
Yeah.
that case was really the start in the change of mainstream media too, where
Yes.
it went from news to infotainment. And
Mhm.
CNN, whether you love CNN or not, they're really to blame for that. And
Yep.
and I think a lot of experts that I've talked to in journalism blame CNN for the loss of actual news and actual journalism because of the O.J. Simpson case. I mean, it set precedents with a lot of different ways in the way we view court cases, in the way we view television, in the way we view our news. And let's continue this conversation. I know we're going to get into JFK, but let's continue this conversation after the break because I think it's an important one. Winnie Schrader is here tonight on Spaced Out Radio. She has an incredible podcast called Mysteries, Mayhem, and Merlot. It can be heard on Sundays at mysteriesmayhemandmerlot.net. or any major podcast network. We'll be right back on Spaced Out Radio in the second half hour. All right, we are clear.
Sweet.
There we go.
Oh, thanks, Paramarv, putting
Mhm.
up my links.
Yes. Paramarv is
Yeah.
good with that.
I was gonna say after the break, what we should do is just talk about the Menendez case, for example, because well, with OJ and the Menendez, those were kind of the first big televised court cases, and the Menendez case was happening. But, you know, they were kind of happening simultaneously, and they were both in the court. But when they had the mistrial, the first um, Menendez case, when they went to the second one, they wouldn't even allow the sexual abuse to be mentioned in court. They would not televise it, and that's when they were found guilty because they went off basic facts of the case and not sensationalize it with abuse.
Oh, yeah.
That's why they're in prison. This is that second case, and it was just, but yeah, just to see the difference of not having media in the courtroom and having media in the courtroom, and look at the two different outcomes: a mistrial and then guilty. And now everybody wants them free.
There is total pressure on everything.
It's, they don't have anything better to do. Come on, digging up
Well,
weird girl cases.
yeah, but there's a lot of people who work from home, maybe not back then in the 90s, but
Mhm.
whether it was stay-at-home moms, stay-at-home dads, unemployed people who were getting real life soap operas happening right in front,
Oh, I
and
know. I watched it.
that was eating up 8 hours a day.
I
7
was watching that my whole summer break.
Oh yeah.
With the whole OJ thing. Oh my god, it was fascinating when I had to go back to school. I can't wait to get home to see what happened during court while I was at school.
I can tell you exactly what I was wearing the night that OJ had the white Bronco slow speed chase, because I was
Yep.
getting ready to go out with my buddies that night. I mean, it was really one of those "where were you" moments, right?
I was at home. Yeah, I was at home, and also my grandma, she's like, "Come here." 'Cause my grandma watched basketball. She was watching some basketball. I guess it was the NBA finals, and they actually cut the screen and had like two screens. You had the NBA finals and then the OJ chase. And that was the biggest night in pizza delivery history. Did you know that? It's
I'm
helped
sorry.
beat Super Bowls.
Yeah, back then, yeah.
Everyone was ordering pizzas and watching the slow speed chase of O.J. Simpson and Al Cowley. Oh, that case.
Must see TV. Must see TV.
Oh, yeah.
We got about 2 minutes, Winnie.
Okay. Yeah, I've been plugging away at the podcast. I actually my tarot bit. I do tarot now for like a job. I was just on the Chris Jericho cruise, and I did tarot card readings on a cruise ship. That was awesome. Oh, thank you. Oh, Tim Hoffman.
Let's see here. Mike Bothwell, how you doing? Good evening to you.
I agree, Blue Moon. We'll talk about that JFK inside job.
We got about 1 minute. Well, 1 minute. Let's see here. Let's see here. All right, big thank you to Major Lee, our lone super chatter of the night. Thank you very much, Lee. We appreciate your love and support.
Yes.
And don't forget, you can shop at the Spaced Out Radio store. Why? Because we don't have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. You can wear our stuff out in public and be proud of it. You can wear it to more places than a paint store, a garage sale, to the lawnmower shop, flea markets.
I know. I actually just put up my merch for my true crime show. I was like, what do I put on the stuff? And I just came up with some stuff. So I hope people like it.
Hold on right there, Whit. Here we go. Here we go, the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Greatly appreciate you tuning us on in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Reminder to all of you that if you missed portions of this show or others, you can check out our free archives on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. From the True Crime Podcast, Mysteries, Mayhem, and Merlot, host Winnie Schrader is here with us. And right before the break, we were talking about how media really changed due to the O.J. Simpson trial and the ratings that was getting. And then it led into the Menendez trial because people needed the next thing that was going to get their crime fix. Winnie, welcome back.
Well, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Anytime. Anytime you want to come on, you can. You know, you got a free pass. You and your husband,
Oh.
Dave, free passes. We're like
we
a
get the
Disneyland
Schrader
around
pass.
here. You got the quick pass.
Oh, sweet. I don't have to wait in line.
No. At
Oh,
least the lines
yes.
keep moving, though.
What was that? I'm sorry.
At least the lines, though, keep moving. So you may be in line for
Yeah.
like 90 minutes for a ride, but it only feels like it's been about 15 because you're moving.
Have you ever though been stuck in line and you just become best friends with everybody around you? I'm that type of person, so I don't mind waiting in line because I get new friends that way.
I did have one. I actually had an argument with a lady in line once at Disneyland. Yeah,
An
an
argument?
argument with her. She was standing behind us, and you spark up conversation with people in line just like you. And she goes, "Where are you
Yeah.
from?" "Oh, well, we're from British Columbia, Canada." "You're not Canadian. Don't lie." Yes, I'm Canadian." And she's like, "Don't lie. You don't have a Canadian accent. You don't say A. I know Canadians. I know what they sound like, and you don't sound like you're Canadian."
Oh, oh, that's a weird thing to you're not. You're lying. Okay. I don't know why I would lie about it, but
I
whatever.
had to show the lady my driver's license to calm her down in
Oh,
order
she just
for her to
needs to get
leave.
out of no, she can just go somewhere else then, 'cause oh, heck no, I wouldn't have tolerated that. Oh, God, maybe
Oh,
that's when you have to put the camera on her and show the world how she's acting. Show that
it was
Karen off, right?
one of those
Uh,
days.
yeah, I guess, yeah, she must have
One
been having
of
a
those
bad
days.
one. But
Oh,
speaking of bad days,
let's get right back to the true crime here for a second,
yeah.
because the shift in media after OJ, and then you want to touch on the Menendez case because that has recently drawn a lot of popularity on the Netflix series. Now, I apologize. And that is one of the series I do want to get into on my own timing in order to, actually watch this. But I mean, your thoughts on it all coming back to fruition?
Well, I mean, the whole thing when it came to OJ and the Menendez, okay, it all kind of started during the verdict in the Rodney King trial. That the officers that were caught on tape beating the living daylights out of Rodney King were found not guilty. And that's when the riots broke out. And so when the Menendez case was building, and then now you had OJ, the DA wanted a win. And then they lost the OJ case. They really needed a win. So having the Menendez case, now the first Menendez case ended in a mistrial. Nobody could definitively, now the abuse was brought up in that trial, but when they went to the second trial, there were no cameras in that courtroom. They were not allowed to bring up the abuse. They were only there to establish facts. They had a whole new judge, a whole new DA, and they were found guilty based off the information in that trial. Now, everyone's like, well, the DA needed a win. They didn't get the OJ. The cops got off, and then they had the riots. So they needed to stick something to somebody. So the Menendez are like, well, that's the only reason why we were found guilty. Well, no, you were found guilty because you murdered your parent. And the reason why they got life is because it falls under the category of a special circumstance that if they said that they felt that they were in danger, they premeditated the murder. That to me doesn't show that they were in immediate danger, that they had to kill somebody in order to, flee from them getting killed. But the whole abuse thing, okay, if they were abused, which there is evidence showing now that they were, does that mean that they shouldn't have gone to jail? I mean, I understand, but there are people that are abused that don't go murdering people, murdering their abusers and things like that. So the reason why they got life in prison was because it was a special circumstance due to murdering somebody for financial gain. And the whole issue then comes up of the will and the money that they got. Now, people are like, well, they can grieve in their own way. If you walked in on your parents brutally blown up, I mean, literally, they shot Kitty so much that if they would have moved her whole rib cage would have just broke apart and she would have just fallen apart. If there's rage there, I get it. But they say it was premeditated. So to me, that doesn't show the defense is that they have a thing called, where you murder somebody and in special circumstances that you did it to defend yourself and things. They call it an imperfect defense. And somehow, the second trial, the DA, he got all of that basically squashed. So all they did was base it on the facts, and the media couldn't spin it because they were not allowed in the court. But I don't know how your fans and stuff feel about the whole Menendez case and the whole abuse excuse. My theory is did they kill their parents because they abused them, or did they use the abuse as an excuse to kill their parents and get their money? I'm not saying it didn't happen, but what were their motives? To me, it doesn't look like they were fleeing and running for their lives. Does it?
I'm still kind of stuck on that one because it was premeditated. And, no matter whether the abuse was there or not, they still plotted to kill their parents rather than going to the police, rather than doing anything about it. And I'm sure at 18 years old, 19 years old, when they did it, they probably felt, well, our parents are rich. People aren't going to buy it because they could, buy their way out of it, and probably didn't want to take that chance.
Mm-hmm.
So I could see where, both sides of the coin here. But on the flip side, it was premeditated. I mean, you went and, you know, offed them
Mhm.
pretty harshly.
And, it's kind of when you look back at the transcripts and stuff from the court cases, I mean, the whole reason why they said they had to kill their parents when they did conveniently came after a big fight because supposedly uh Eric told Lyle about the abuse. Then Lyle went to his dad and he says, okay, you're out of the will. And that's why they plotted to kill him because his dad threatened to take them out of the will. And on the surface, it looks like they were trying to get rid of their parents before he could change the will. Because what was the one thing that they were trying to get the moment they found out their parents were dead? Where's the will? We need to see the will. And then they found out they were still in the will, so they didn't even need to kill their parents.
Hmm. It's a harsh way to try and become rich quick.
And that is kind of the things that I kind of look at and examine when it comes to a case. Not to say I'm not saying that they're lying, that abuse didn't happen, but I'm sorry, there was under no circumstances how anything was played out. You guys went to the movies. How is that being intimately threatened by your life by your parents? I don't. No, I don't buy that. I don't buy that reasoning at all.
Yeah, for me, it sounds like a couple of spoiled brats not getting their way and deciding to come up with the worst case excuse, okay,
Hmm.
to try and, you know, uh, use as a defense.
Right. And, Lyle, especially Lyle, he would put his dad up on a pedestal in public. Like he was this great man and, all this stuff. And then, I mean, I can't say the abuse happened or not, but it's just like you would think that somebody who admired their dad and on the side that nobody can see that the man that he admires so much is abusing him. Honestly, you would think the best revenge you can get is to go public and just crush your abusive father publicly. Because Jose and Kitty Menendez, oh, they were bougie just as bad. Their kids learned it from them, honestly. I mean, like Kitty, she had to have that 90210 zip code. She wanted to be in Beverly Hills and live this fancy life, an expensive life. And, you know, you kind of create these monsters, and look what happened.
Winnie Schrader is here tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We're talking true crime from her podcast series, Mysteries, Mayhem, and Merlot, which you can find on any major podcast network, as well as on our website, Mysteries, Mayhem, and Merlot.net. So make sure you check that on out. So when you look at cases like that, and then you fast forward, do you think that the Menendez brothers deserve another trial?
I think they deserve another trial. In all honesty, if they were to go to trial and found guilty again, but the judge could easily say, okay, you are found guilty of murdering your parents, but your time has been served. I would be okay with that. I'm not okay with them. I'm not okay with them using abuse as a way to get out of jail. To put it bluntly, because like I said, there are sexual abuse victims that don't go on murdering people. They don't go on becoming criminals and just the drudge of society. Some people become, you know, CEOs of companies and airline pilots and teachers and parents and moms and dads. And, so it's like you got to kind of look at everything as a whole and not just glob onto one topic and that's the end all for the whole case because you know the way they for one thing, Lyle in during his time in prison, waiting to get to his trial, his idiot self was sitting here talking to a woman over the phone, and she was going to write his biography. And he told her everything. Well, he didn't think to know that she was recording him on her end, and she wrote the book. And everything that Lyle said is in the book, even how he can cry on command so he can really sell it to the jury. And that was his own words.
I agree with you. And I remember that part coming out. I
Mhm,
mean, it's just an ugly, ugly case. That being said, it really is.
mhm,
But the reason why we do have you here tonight is because we want to talk about the JFK files. And this is a case that is still talked about in infamy in American history. And, you know, we're getting it in the news these days because with this new basically conspiracy theory task force that they have on bringing everything out, it seems like we're going to get the files once they've been reviewed and names have been redacted, because there are people who are still, went on to work on other cases that are, some of those
mhm,
cases, according to the government, are still going on today. So
mhm.
in the JFK files, we all know what happened at Dealey Plaza. We all know. But what did you think when Anna Paulina Luna came out and said that she believed that there was a second shooter at the same time?
I do believe there was more than one shooter. I don't believe Oswald was the sole shooter. Now, whether or not that second or third shooter was intentional or not, that's kind of debatable because I've not, like I said, I've really delved in and watched so many different theories and documentaries on it just to kind of piece together, see what seems logical, because people can throw all this flashy stuff over here and flashy stuff over here, but you're missing the actual picture that you need to be looking at because you're, you know, distracted by shiny things. Um, but so I like to kind of get as much information as possible and then piece it together that makes more sense and logic to me. So that's what I've kind of done over the years with the JFK assassination and what led up to that. If there was a second shooter, was it intentional? What were they there for? I mean, I've even mentioned there's probably about five factions of people at the time President Kennedy was alive, and all five of them had a purpose to assassinate Kennedy. I have a feeling like there was some underground bunker room, and every dictator and state head that wanted him gone, they all like sat in a room and figured out how they were going to do it. You had the CIA, the FBI, Cuban, Cubans, the Russians. I mean, the Cold War was at its peak. I mean, it was just a horrible time. And so it's really hard to kind of figure out, well, who the heck did kill Kennedy? Well, honestly, I think it was like a collection of people just said he had to go and they had to devise a way to do it.
He was a hated man. The people loved him, but those in the, what we hear today that we could consider the swamp were all out to
Mhm.
get him, and it
Right.
ties names from Lyndon Johnson all the way on down to Texas's governor at the time and many others. The mafia wanted him gone. There was talk that the communists wanted him gone. I mean, there was a lot of
Mhm.
people that were upset with him.
Yeah, and when it comes to all the key players, I think the main player in all of it was the CIA. I think they were the ones that were the Charlie and Charlie's Angels, and they were to giving the shots out to different groups. They probably did have, obviously, they did have ties with the mafia as well with the assassination. But I think what they were doing is putting together a ragtag assassination team that everybody had their skill sets and it had to go off the way it had to. And I think Oswald was a patsy, like he said he was.
Many people do think that Oswald was the patsy, Lee Harvey Oswald.
Mhm.
including his former lover, Judith Vary Baker, who's been very open about it on X,
Mhm.
especially over the last few days regarding the possibility of the news coming out. I mean,
Yeah.
many marksman experts, they have testified that there's no way he could have made that shot.
Mm-mm.
There's no way he
And
could have made the shot.
yeah, and even with the autopsies and stuff like that of his body, they were saying that the bullet came from the back when it was clearly an entrance wound into his throat. It wasn't an exit wound, so it couldn't have come from his back. I mean, it was almost like they thought the American public was dumb. And it's not that they weren't at the time, they just weren't educated on what we know now. I mean, we have information at our fingertips. Do you think any kid, 13-year-old kid, wanted to look up the assassination of President Kennedy, could have gone to the local library and see autopsy pictures of what his wounds looked like? No. So they had to take the word for what was being reported and what the White House was putting out there as fact. And so people had to take it for what it was. And it's just unfortunate that in the crux of everything, in the end, the reason why he was assassinated was for the almighty dollar, because we needed to go to war with Vietnam to make some do re mi. If you think about it, what happened after Kennedy was assassination and LBJ took office? All of a sudden, we were in a war that Kennedy did not want us to be in. I don't know.
And
It
it
just
cost the lives of almost 60,000 American men and women.
exactly. And you get these defense contracts. I mean, uh, Kennedy's cabinet, and a lot of his military aides that he had in his cabinet, they were pushing him to get into Vietnam, pushing him to get into Cuba and deal with Russia. And he's just like, no. And that was, the start of the Cold War. I mean, you see movies back then where kids are going on their desks for atomic bomb drills. And I mean, it was a weird time. And it kind of like if we want to start kind of going back to where I think the trail started happening, uh, that led up to his assassination. Have you ever heard of Operation Northwoods?
I have heard of it. For our
Okay.
audience who doesn't know what it is, fill us in.
All right. Well, it was a proposed plan that was put in by the U.S. Department of Defense. It was going to be like a false flag operation. Basically, what they were going to do is commit acts of terrorism. And this is the CIA. Commit acts of terrorism against U.S. military bases and things like that. I don't know if they were going to go after civilians, but they wanted to start attacking U.S. military bases both in Cuba, possibly in the States, and they wanted to make it look like the Cubans did it. Well, Kennedy was like, no, we're not doing that. So that it was like they were trying anything and everything they had to bait Kennedy into going to war. And every time he said no. And, so that was kind of like the start of it. And to know that the CIA would actually do that is kind of unnerving, to say the least, especially with the world we're in today. That's kind of, I don't know. What do you think on that one?
Oh, I think the CIA has their dirty little fingers in a lot of holes that they may not want to admit that they are in. Whether it's
Yeah.
JFK, whether it's Vietnam, whether it's the drug trade, Iran Contra, all the havoc in the Middle East, I think they are a scary, scary, in-depth organization. That's for sure.
Well, and you look at it too, it's almost like in any time Kennedy did do something like the Bay of Pigs, it would flop. And it was just like, I I don't understand why they were pushing the agenda so hard. And then when I started looking into it more, started seeing, okay, who would benefit the most with Kennedy out of office? Well, that would be defense contracts and the sitting president, LBJ, who brought us into Vietnam. that Kennedy
Hold
was
that thought.
completely against. Yeah.
Hold that thought. We're going to go to break at the top of the hour. The JFK files, should they come out? That's what we're going to get into next with Winifred Schrader, True Crime Podcast, Mysteries Mayhem.
This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott.
All right, Winnie, we are clear.
Okay.
We got about 6 minutes here, about 5.5 minutes. I'm going to take a quick break. I'm going to put you back in the green room and I'll be right back, okay?
Okay, perfect.
Okay. Be right back, everybody. All right, I am back. Flip my pillow over. Oh, let's bring Winnie back.
Hello.
Hi, Win.
Hello.
You having fun?
Yeah, I am. I love talking. I'm a talker.
Me too.
I
Me
know
too.
when I learned about North Operation North was. I'm like, I feel like, is that what they're doing to us today? Or is somebody trying to get us to go to war with somebody? I feel like that's what's happening. And you can't trust anything you see video wise because everything's AI now. It's like you have to fact check everything you see on social media. It's horrible. A lot of these airline videos have been fake too.
Oh, yes. I've
Oh,
been watching that.
they'll be sitting, all you see is them, and then all of a sudden you'll hear the pilot overhead saying something like, "Oh, the engine's on fire." It's auto generated. It's not even real. I'm like, really? Why would you do that? Yeah.
Dave sits on a pillow, yes, because it helps Dave's sciatica.
Oh yeah, I have a pillow. I have a contour type orthopedic type pillow too for the same reason. Well, for my nerves and my legs.
Sciatica sucks. I'm just going to tell you
I
that.
have I have lupus, so like I have the nerve problem all over, but it really is in my legs really bad. There's times it's hard to walk because I my legs won't do what they're supposed to, and it's like I'm walking on flexed leg muscles. It sucks.
Oh, that's terrible. We're coming back in 15 seconds. Thank you to Major Lee ×7 and Mel WD40 for the super chats tonight. Greatly appreciate the love and support, everybody. Thank you very much. And we're going to come back right now. Here we go with hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Great to have you with us as we talk true crime with Winnie Schrader. That will continue momentarily. But first, let's say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. True crime podcaster Winnie Schrader is here. Her show is called Mysteries, Mayhem, and Merlot. It can be found on any major podcast network, on YouTube, as well as her website, Mysteries, Mayhem, and Merlot.net. Winnie, thank you so much for being here and talking JFK with us.
Oh, you're welcome. It's a passion of mine, and it never gets old. There's always something new happening with the JFK case.
Oh, yes. Were you surprised when Nancy Mace did a poll and JFK only got 7% of the vote to release the files, and Epstein got like 85, 86%?
Yeah, that's another thing. Yeah, they are trying to push that the Epstein files to be released, and I honestly, that I think has more would have we all know it was an inside job with JFK. It's just a matter of who actually pulled the trigger, how many triggers were pulled, not just one. Um, but with the Epstein case, I mean, you have people that it could destroy their lives today. I mean, this is fairly new, and the information comes out. That means people's names are going to start coming out and information. They were trying to, I think right now they're trying to release Epstein's flight logs. How many times did he fly back and forth to the island? And I believe they have to have manifests of the passengers on each flight. So they're going to see whose names were on those flights those days. So I think a lot of people are really eager to find out more. It's almost like with JFK, the actual assassination itself has kind of been put through the ringer way too many times. But the question now is why was he killed? That's and who benefited the most? Because we know LBJ didn't pull the trigger, but did he give the green light to pull the trigger? And another thing too that's been popping up, and I've watched a documentary a few years back. There was a documentary called "The Smoking Gun," and they had a retired. He was a weapons expert. I believe he was in law enforcement and military, and he specialized in ballistics. And he believes that the possible fatal headshot came from one of the Secret Serviceman's rifle in the car behind the Kennedy car. And he thinks what happened is when the car jolted forward, when they hit the gas to speed off, that the Secret Service man he was standing up in the car, and when they jolted the car, he hit the trigger and it accidentally went off and caused a fatal headshot. Now, there's also now surfaced, I don't know if you've seen some of the images or some of the video. It's really kind of blurry and trying to figure out to actually see it, but it almost looks like the driver of Kennedy's car, Secret Service William Greer. It almost looks like as he's driving, he pulls his service arm, and he turns back this way, and this is all you see. It's kind of hard to tell, but you see almost like a muzzle flash, and that's when you see Kennedy's head blow back. Now, could it have been that? Logically, yes. But why? Was it accidental? Did he reach around hearing gunshots and, jolted the car and accidentally pulled the trigger and shot the president directly in the head? I don't know. Was it intentional? I don't know. And there are some people that speculate that he delayed on speeding off. It's almost like he slowed down right before the first shot. And some theorists have saying now the reason why he turned around and shot the president because the original bullet that supposedly came from the book suppository behind it, where Oswald was, got him in the neck and not the head. So he turned around and shot him in the head. Now there's been theories of the magic bullet. Where was this bullet found? Some say it was found in the gurney, but actually the bullet that they found in the actual pristine bullet that supposedly was the magic bullet, it wasn't found on the gurney. It was found in the car. Somebody put it on the gurney. Why? It's those little things that you piece together when you look at the events that happened that day. And you're like, well, why would they move the bullet? That doesn't make sense. Why would they do that? Because they swapped the bullets out. The show came from the same gun when it didn't. So they were trying to put the same exact bullet, I believe, that supposedly was an Oswald's gun with Kennedy, prove that the fatal shot was from Oswald's gun when it wasn't. So that's kind of my conclusion on that. But one thing I don't know. Oh, go ahead.
No, please go right ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that, like, another thing that I came across too that I don't think a lot of people know about, but I know people have heard the term Operation Mongoose.
Yes.
But on November 22nd, 1963, there was another political figure that was supposed to be assassinated that day. Do you know who it is?
1963? No, I do not.
Same day Kennedy was getting shot. Supposed to be Fidel.
Probably either Castro or Khrushchev.
It was Castro. The CIA came up with a scheme. They actually got one of Castro's upper guys who was very disheartened with Castro and disenchanted with his dictatorship, flipped on him, and was an asset for the CIA. And he was supposed to deliver a poison pen, like a Bic pen, or whatever type of pen they had back then. It was supposed to have a syringe in it, and he was supposed to stab him with the poison and kill Castro. But it never happened. But Kennedy was assassinated. So I find that kind of odd. So is that trying to point the fingers at Russia? So then we'd go after Russia. Thank God that didn't go off, because then we probably would have had a nuclear war back. And it wouldn't have been the Cold War. It would have been, that was our last war. That's what that would have been. So some of those things that play part, you know, having Fidel Castro not get assassinated that day, maybe that saved us for our future as Americans and not getting Russia throwing nuclear bombs all over the country. I don't know. But it's those things that play a part in how these working wheels of history affect what we have today. And that's why I like to look back and look at this and say, these are the things that we need to watch out for, because they've already done it and they will do it again. We just got to make sure we're educated on it. So that's why I always say, do the research, dig deep. If you don't know, don't guess. Find somebody who does, you know? So it's kind of one of those things. And the Kennedy case is one of those bottomless pits that, you know, it's almost like every player, key player in this had its specific role and it played out the way they wanted it to. So I it's disheartening, but, you know, it's kind of good to know. It's better not to.
Do you think then that, I mean, there's so many theories about Kennedy's death. Do you think that, the one conspiracy I want to talk about, you might smile about it, that UFOs had anything to do with it? Because the UFO community tends to think that one of the reasons why they got rid of Kennedy was because he was going to release the UFO files. I don't buy that personally, but I'm curious your thoughts.
No, I don't think the only thing I could see that playing in any part in his assassination is possibly releasing any type of weaponry, military weapons that we're creating based on if we do have UFOs, which I believe we do, and I believe that they're there. I have my own theories of who the aliens are, but but I the only thing I could see is if there was anything tying it to our military and our weapons and how we're creating things, information on that could get leaked out to like Russia or something like that. But I don't think just Kennedy supposedly wanting to release the UFO saying there was like Roswell did happen. Um, I don't think that would have been enough to off him at all. I'm probably about 90% sure it was because of him bucking every uh thing that they threw at him and brought to his attention of trying to go to war. And he also had issues back and forth between his own cabinet when it came to the civil rights movement as well. I mean, it was like they were always trying to get him to do something he did not want to do, and it cost him his life.
Yeah, it's very interesting how this entire story plays out because it's ugly. It's an
Mhm.
ugly part of American history that, the rest of the world, like me being up in Canada, doesn't really understand to the full extent. But I mean, it is something that, does need to come out. And, when these reports come out, and hopefully within the next couple of months they will, what do you expect to happen there?
Well, obviously, I think and I'm sure, obviously, they're going to have to like redact some things, like you said, people's names, information like that, because a lot of people are still alive. But I would hope that they would have. I would hope it would give some clarity, if anything, at least if it's in the reports, showing how manipulative our own government can be with its people and within itself. That would probably be the biggest thing that could come out. 'Cause like I said, I don't think we're gonna get have that final, "Aha, I knew it," when it comes to who killed them and why. Because, like I said, if the CIA had anything to do with it, there's no paper trail. I mean, literally, they are Mission Impossible. where you read the message and 10 seconds later it will destroy itself. It's like that's just how they work. And um, there could be some paper trails, but it's probably very coded and things like that that unless you were in the know, you're not gonna know. And but I hope there's enough information in there that people can look and say, we need some checks and balances here because if this crap was going on in 1963, what's to say it's not gotten worse, especially with the technology we have today? So that's kind of like my hope that people can get out of the report. And I'm sure we'll get some more jokes and some more laughs when it comes to uh JFK's womanizing and things like that. And what's sad too is they're probably gonna even have a lot of that about Martin Luther King Jr. and Robert Kennedy. Um, and honestly, the only thing I feel supernatural when it comes to any of this is paranormal. Is if you're a Kennedy, don't run for office. That's that's a deal breaker for me, man. Even if I wasn't even related to the Kennedys, I would not be in political office whatsoever. But it just seems like that family is just cursed when it comes to that. But yeah, I just like I said, I hope people kind of get a clearer picture, be like, God dang it, I didn't really think our government could do this kind of stuff and how they can manipulate and spin a narrative and use the media to do so. Um, you know, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm a logical person that you have to read between the lines these days, right? Especially with social media, you have to. So don't take things for face value. Do your research.
I apologize if this is an ignorant question, but I'm going to ask it anyways. And that would
Nothing
be, does this matter to the American public, knowing the full scale of what happened or what led up to it? Or is it just a matter that the American public knows that it wasn't Oswald who pulled the kill shot, that it could have been somebody else, and that the American people just want to know who really shot and killed JFK? I think there's two different stories there, and I hope that isn't an offensive question, but
No.
I think it is a valid one.
Well, yeah, and you want to know what? It's going to be a generational thing. You know what I mean? Um, People, the baby boomers, they want to know who did it, but kind of the Gen Xers, the millennials, we want to know why. We, we've seen so much on that, and we were, Gen Xers and millennials, we weren't watching this stuff live and things like that, and taking the Warren Commission report as the Bible on the Kennedy assassination. That's basically what was fed to everybody post the assassination. But Gen Xers, we were kind of the punk rockers. We didn't trust authority, and we always questioned it. And so our generation kind of dug deep a little bit. So I feel like it's almost like a different generational shift of what they want the outcome to be. I'm sure everybody wants to just say, okay, so and so did it, you know. But the real question is why? What would be the reason that if he didn't get assassination, what would have happened then? Like would we have gone, there's like so many working wheels when it comes to it. It just kind of depends on your perception of the case itself and your reasoning wanting to look into it. Do you want to know who did it? Do you want to know why? You want to know both. It's kind of a mixed bag when it comes to the Kennedy assassination because it's lived on for so long. I mean, we don't talk about Abraham Lincoln's assassination like we do when it comes to JFK's assassination and Abraham Lincoln's assassination. Yeah, we know who did it, but I mean the whole reason why. I mean, it was like, and they tried to kill the vice president the same night. I mean, it was like a coup. And that's kind of how they felt, how the American people felt after, you had Garrison the attorney in New Orleans, the movie that Roger Stone's movie JFK was based off of. And Garrison, he believed that there was a CIA tie, that Oswald was a CIA asset, which there are documents to prove so. And the person that supposedly was Oswald in Cuba, supposedly buddying up with the people in Cuba, they took pictures of him. It wasn't even Oswald. It didn't even look like Oswald. This guy had a fake passport, fake ID saying he was Oswald. And it wasn't him. And now I don't know if Oswald went there that day thinking he was going there to protect the president, or was he there just to be a decoy? I don't know. And that's, like I said, that's probably the things we're never going to know. But there's definitely more players in it than what the Warren Commission. The Warren Commission, you can probably just take that and throw it in the garbage, because not the only thing factual out of that is that Kennedy died that day. Pretty much it. That's about, so it's just like, you have to put these pieces together, and it's good that the technology is coming out. People can enhance the cameras and the video footage from that time, and use technology when it comes to ballistics, and you see all these people doing these experiments, and that's the kind of thinking and logic I think a lot more people need when it comes to stuff like this. So that way you're not just jumping in feet first in a conspiratorial mind or, whatnot. You want to make sure when you're jumping into something that you're prepared for what you're jumping into and what you're going to hear. So, I mean, it's disheartening. It is disheartening to know these things, but at least I know, and now I know what to watch out for.
How much of the paperwork, the 2,500 pages that are allegedly going to come out, how much of that do you think is going to be redacted?
The only thing, I mean, depending on how transparent this whole thing is going to be, the only thing I can see them redacting are people's names, probably locations, things like that could still be around today. Maybe even, I mean, obviously, I think a lot of locations are going to be redacted for sure, because, if there's any type of photo evidence, and then they can tie that picture of that location with the paper, then that evidence is locked in and you can't get rid of it. So depending on, how they have all this evidence laid out, I'm not sure. I think at minimal, it's just going to be like the names, locations, things like that. The only other thing I could see getting redacted, if it's specific defense departments within the CIA and the defense, Department of Defense, because some of that stuff may be still classified, like special op type groups, things like that. They may not be named as well. But I think we're going to find out a lot more information, but I still think, so they'll say so-and-so is the shooter and his name is redacted. I think that's how it's going to be. But I think it's going to be more salacious than anything. I think we're going to start seeing, like off of his womanizing and kind of those kind of scandals and just sleazy stuff he may have done legislatively. I don't know. I didn't really know much about his political career up until he got to the president. I know he was a senator, but I don't really know much politically up until that point with him. So,
but you also look at the people around him that were taken out as well. Whether it was Lee Harvey Oswald by Jack Ruby, whether it was Marilyn Monroe, whether it was his brother Robert F. Kennedy, there are a lot of people that were surrounding, him that, were eliminated, if we could use that word, as well. But we're going to continue this conversation into the next half hour, because we have Winnie Schrader here for another half an hour till the top of the hour. She's got a great podcast called Mysteries, Mayhem, and Merlot. It can be heard at Sunday night, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern on any major podcast.
listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
Line of the night from the chat room goes to Boondock. Dorothy Mantooth is a saint.
I just read Dave's.
Oh, God. Anytime you can drop a line from Anchorman, that works for me. That will always get screen time. Sweet Robbie G, how you doing? Good to see you awake. Yeah. Man. You know what sucks about doing that in Vegas and living up here? Is you have to drive home from the airport. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Big shout out to Sweet Davy Schrader listening in from another room in another dimension at the Schrader household while the lovely and talented Jenny is on the air with us.
He's locked up in my basement. Left him a water bowl.
I love Lamp. I love Lamp. Oh, God, that was Brick. Yeah. Brick Tamlin. Yeah. Mm. Here's a great name, Shaquille Oatmeal, in our chat room. That is awesome. Magnus, how you doing? I am in a glass case of emotions. That one works. I don't know if you know this, but people know me. Oh, Davey, thank you. Thank you. You're way too kind. Dave, we got to get you back on the show to talk about your new show. I like that guy.
Busy boy. Yeah, I'm kind of fond of him too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Vanessa, you spelled humor the proper way with a U in it.
That's right.
Good for you, Vanessa. I cannot afford it, Dave.
Well, tell him you'll throw in a box of Oreo cookies and then he'll totally do it.
I'll get you a gift certificate for Tim Hortons, Dave.
We don't have Tim Hortons here, so don't. Or do that. That would be funny and ironic.
Uh-huh. What I'm supposed to ask you about the karmic ladle?
Oh yes, our chakra noodle spoon. One day Dave was thrifting and he sends me this picture. I'm like, what are you doing with a chakra noodle spoon? And he bought it. Somebody had taken a metal noodle spoon, the ones with the teeth on it that you use to scoop spaghetti with. Somebody had taken it and they'd taken wire and crafting wire and wired around it, but then wired in like these chakra stones. So now we have here.
Mystery
Dave
hand.
just bought it. This is our chakra noodle spoon.
That is so weird.
I know, right? Well, when you're a paranormal family, how can you not get this if you see it at the store? You know what I mean?
Oh,
So,
totally.
I
totally see what you mean.
Yeah. So yeah, that's our chakra noodle spoon story. Yeah, we have this, and this is kind of like our good vibe. Dave goes around clearing people's houses with it. I don't know. It's one of those funny things. Should probably have it one of those gifts, the ugly Christmas gift that you just keep giving to people and they gift it to other people.
For our kids, every year we get them something stupid that they don't need. We go to the dollar store. Yeah.
Yeah, Yeah, get them like those dryer balls. Like 2 dryer balls there.
We actually got one of I got my daughter mothballs one year. She
Stocking
was like
stuffers.
16. She's like, "What the hell are these, Dad?" You know,
Keep it
we
close
got
and smell 'em musty.
yeah, we got about 25 seconds. Big thank you to Little Davy Schrader, Mel WD40 for the lube chat, and Lee times 7. We appreciate the love and support, everybody. It's a great way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. So thank you very, very much. Don't forget you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. Why? Because we don't have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. You can wear our stuff out in public and be happy with it. So we're going to get going in like a few seconds here. Here we go in the second half of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We are always so happy to have you here. Reminder to all of you that if you miss portions of this show or others, you can check out our free archives on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Final time tonight, we say hello to true crime warrior Winnie Schrader, who has a great podcast called Mysteries, Mayhem, and Merlot. It can be heard Sundays, 10 p.m. Pacific or Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. That would be 9 p.m. Central Time.
Yes.
And if you want to go mountain, it's 8 p.m. Yeah, there we go. We got it all figured out now. That's great. Her website, mysteriesmayhemandmerlot.net. You can hear her on every major podcast network and on YouTube. So make sure you go hit subscribe and ring that bell. Winnie, welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
Right before the break, we were talking about the redactions that you expect. And I think you hit something perfectly here. And I thought about it during the break, and I truly believe what you're saying. I think we are going to find out exactly like you said. We're going to find out what type of salacious life that JFK lived. We're going to find out, his perusing of, pretty much any female walking in heels back then. We're going to find out the dirty deeds that he did rather than focusing on the case. I think we're going to find that buildup. And I agree with you when you said too, that if it is announced there was a second shooter, I think the name will be redacted, probably because that name is tied to different cases or was somebody that everybody would know. And I'm just curious, what led you to believe that?
Because I feel that when you start, I don't know what their kind of code is. I mean, if somebody, I guess, has no ties to anything else other than being in that report, maybe they would have a name. But there's no way they're going to have, like, Lee Harvey Oswald's name as the shooter in there if it's going over what was supposed to happen or how it was supposed to play out, like a plan. They're not going to name people, but you can it's probably going to give us just some more breadcrumbs to lead to it. So it's almost like they're giving you the answer without giving you the answer type of thing. So I think it's going to be a lot of reading between the lines with it as well. You're going to have to try and kind of decipher bit by bit and just kind of say, if they're kind of describing somebody, but they're saying it's this person, they could be talking about Lee Harvey Oswald, but they could be putting in a different name in there, a name that doesn't even exist, that we don't even know about. So it's going to be hard to say until we actually see it. But I think, the names, locations, things like that are going to be redacted because, they could tie into something else that could unfold something else. And we all know how the inner workings of the inside government is that they all seem to be tied together. One domino falls, it seems like It could be a huge, huge problem. And especially right now, dealing with the climate, the global climate that we have, I think it would almost kind of be irresponsible to release names and locations and specific information like that. Because, with what's going on with, Russia and just the global conflict we have now, we don't need any more gas to be put on that fire. And if somebody thinks the Russians did it, well, then you're just gonna, things could happen that we don't want. And that's not how I want people to look at things like the Kennedy assassination. Don't look at it as some, heroic thing that you're gonna go march off to say the truth. Nothing's gonna change the outcome of it. We need to learn from what happened and grow from there and figure out how it can't happen again and what we need to look out for. Because it's not going to be very clear in those documents. And, one thing that you also have to put into consideration is the people that, how are they going to spin this? Now, when LBJ was the day after Kennedy's assassination, once he was sworn in, the very next day, he basically told them what the outcome of the Warren Commission should say, and that Oswald was the lone shooter, and leave it at that. Why would LBJ say that? Did he not want things coming out of, being dug up and, things coming to the surface that people are starting to go, there's something a little fishy here. I mean, it's so hard. It's so hard to compare now to then because so much has changed. Not the decisiveness and the hatred that we have and then the climate and the things that we have going on today. It's how we receive that news, how we look for that news, where we're going, consider the source, who's lying, fake news, who's giving the truth. I mean, it's so convoluted now that no wonder so many people, they're just grasping onto anything that sounds good because you feel like you're on this tire swing and you can't get off when it comes to all this stuff, especially in the news lately. It's just like, so it's like I said, take the time to research it. So when these reports start coming out, I am going to go through them with a fine tooth comb and just start going down at each by, make my little cliff notes and say, okay, I think they might be talking about this person, this character here. But yeah, it's amazing just the corruption that you see globally, looking back at just the JFK. Well, when he started his presidency and you had Khrushchev of Russia, you had the communism fighting over in Vietnam, and then you also had the Cubans. It was just like to take your pick, and everybody wanted Kennedy gone because he was a Kennedy, and the only person that could literally probably sway Kennedy was his father, Joe. That was probably the only guy that could get JFK to do what they wanted him to do. Otherwise, JFK did what he wanted. So, it's kind of like depending on how you want to look at the case, it's going to depend on how the outcome that you come to. So, it just kind of depends on how you approach cases like this, especially like this, because of all the conjecture and controversy and conspiracy that falls around the assassination of our president, JFK.
I would agree with that. I think that's a smart, logical thought on that subject. I
Hmm.
think that there are going to be hundreds of pages that are nearly completely blacked out.
Yeah.
I really
Yeah.
do. And I think we're going to see a lot of names blacked out. And I think the American public is going to be, sideswiped by they've been sideswiped by this word transparency.
Hmm.
And and our definition of transparency isn't the transparency that they think we should have.
Hmm.
Now, there's a lot more people out there who are saying that we don't need to see them. There's nothing there. There is no there. You know, there's been people in the Gang of Eight prior to the election coming out saying, the I've seen the JFK files. The American public doesn't need to see them. There's nothing there to see. Basically, pulling what I like to call around here the chief Wiggum. Nothing to see here, people.
Yeah,
Nothing,
let's see here.
right?
Yeah.
And I think it's ridiculous. If there's nothing to see and people are going to be left with a bland taste in their mouth, release the damn thing. You don't have
Right.
to release the names of the setup or anything like that, but just release it. And if it is Oswald, and they can prove that it was Oswald beyond a shadow of a doubt in those notes, then let it drop. But the question is,
Mhm.
and thank you, Joe, for the question, who's doing the redacting?
Exactly. I don't know. Apparently it's like some officials at the Department of Defense are the ones that are going through and seeing what can be seen and what has to be redacted in those files. So I don't, it doesn't really even set clear when you go to the Department of Justice website and saying like what does this actually mean when it comes to what information is going to be released. There's no real clear picture other than, it's time to do it. Well, okay, well, what? I mean, there's been reports that have been released already. But like you said, there's so much information redacted. And, are they going to go back and go through the ones that have already been released and unredact some of that information as well? I don't know. It's not a real clear picture. I almost feel like this was done as just to appease maybe RFK Jr. I don't know. Because he's like the only one that's really pushed for it politically to have this, because it was his father that was murdered, and he feels that it was a government conspiracy that killed his father, and if hey, and he has every right to go and look and see who killed his father and why. But I don't know if the American government has enough faith in its people to think that we can handle it. That's probably why they haven't released. They were going to release all this UFO stuff. Well, they didn't release nothing. Oh yeah, we find biological stuff. Okay, good. Okay, you want to elaborate on that? What type of biological stuff? It's just like, I mean, it was just trying to appease people to say we did it, but not giving us information that we crave and want. So yeah, it's kind of like, I guess if you wanted to compare it to anything, I have a feeling it's gonna be a lot like the Willy Wonka chocolate factory display that all those people went to, that they had all these AI images of this wonderland of Wonka, and it looked so inviting to go get there. It was like literally the displays were made out of construction paper, and there was like it looked awful. And I feel that's exactly what it's gonna be like when we look at these documents. We're gonna have the Willy Wonka experience flop when it comes to it. So
I agree with you. And,
yeah.
it's, like even like you just mentioned the whole UFO thing. There's another one where we've heard Tim Burchett stand up, at the podium of the masses saying, we need transparency on this. We need the truth. Well, who's we? Because you're the one who is getting this information. You're the one who's talking behind closed doors with these people. You're the one going into skiffs, but we don't hear you coming out publicly being transparent. And I find it very hypocritical when it comes to these types of situations because the citizens are being fooled. The citizens
Mhm.
are putting their faith in the fact that these politicians truly do care. But the one thing a lot of these politicians have done is they have learned how to play social media to their advantage,
Mhm. Exactly.
especially
Yeah.
X.
Yeah, and it's like we're asking for transparency as we want to look like we're looking through a plate of glass. We don't want the frost sticked on frosted overlook that you put in your bathroom window so people can't see in your bathroom while you're naked. You know what I'm talking about? That frosted glass. That's what I feel like the American government is doing to us when it comes to this stuff. They're it's transparent, you just can't see because it's a bit cloudy, but it's transparent. You can see through it technically, but you just can't really see what's going on the other side. And I feel that's how they're looking at it, and that they don't trust us enough and be mature enough to take it. On the other hand, when you look at how society falls apart on social media, I don't blame the government for not wanting to tell us that on the other side, because I don't think a lot of us can mentally handle it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Not everybody is stable and logical thinkers, probably your audience and everything else. People could go literally ballistic because of this information. I don't know. That's the only thing I can think of that would make logical sense to me of why they're not telling the American public about the UFOs and the aliens. I mean, for God's sakes, we know they're there. I've gotten to the point where I'm not going to wait for the American government to give me my answer. I'm just going to seek it out for myself.
And I think a lot more people are making that choice as we move forward. I mean, not to bring UFOs into the subject, but I mean, the way that they are playing the public for fools on this. Do you
Mm-hmm.
have it or do you not? And we're going to
Right.
find out about that. And, I want to kind of switch gears here for a quick second because I mentioned this earlier and I really wanted to talk about it then, but we didn't get time because we moved on so quickly. But getting to the fact that, the American public, probably the world public, I know it's captivated my attention. I really want to see the Epstein list and I want to see
I
the
do
Dealey
too.
list. I really do. I think that this is has the potential to tear down a lot of people in this world, very influential people. And not that I want to see people get torn down, but if they've been doing some heinous things to people, from human trafficking to whatever salacious behavior they have used, and I don't get to use the word salacious on here often, so I'm going to take advantage of that. That's my word of the night.
I love it.
Just your thoughts on that importance, being a true crime uh, detective.
I think that is very poignant, and I think it is very I think it's very needed, because and I that's probably the one thing that I would really like to come out, because it's not just throwing Epstein. I mean, it's throwing a lot of people under the bus that need to go under the bus, because we're talking human trafficking. We're talking drugging young women and sexually molesting these women for your own self gratification. You need to go. I don't care what your status is and who you are, you just need to go. And that's a list that needs to be released, because now with the whole P. Diddy thing and all that's happened out, look how many celebrities separated themselves before his news broke. Why do you think Jamie Foxx separated himself? And some people say he was in the hospital because P. Diddy poisoned him because he was going to speak out in public about it. So all of a sudden, Jamie Foxx was in the hospital. Remember when Jamie Foxx was in the hospital? He very, very leery on why he was in there. Some people are speculating, did he have a stroke? Well, now there's theories out that P. Diddy was poisoning him and wanted him dead because he was going to come out and say something. Follows the same formula as the JFK. It's just a vicious cycle that you see. But right now, human trafficking is huge right now. It's a huge, huge problem globally. It's not just in the United States. It's not just over in the Ukraine or Russia or Czechoslovakia or Germany. I mean, it's everywhere. And we need to put these people down in the ground and get them out of their positions of power, positions of influence. They do not need to be anywhere near people. They need to be locked away and the key thrown away and never see the light of day again, because they're not, all they do is do everything for their own self gratification and to take advantage and enslave people to serve that purpose is humanly wrong. And it needs to be eradicated. And I think having that list come out may give people a second thought of sex trafficking people again.
What
You
is
got to
the
put the hammer down.
what, in your opinion, what is the bigger case? Is it Epstein or is it Diddy?
I think they go in tandem, and honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if P. Diddy was involved with Epstein at some point and learned from him. I feel that I'm sure they have crossed paths, and maybe, I don't know. I don't know how long P. Diddy has been in this lifestyle, but it sure as heck sounds very Epstein to me. So but I think both cases are equally valuable because of the issue that these cases have caused. I don't feel like one has more weight than the other because we're both still dealing with the same. I look at it as more of the victim standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
and P Diddy's victims are probably sitting in the same boat as all of Epstein's victims, and the people with Epstein got some justice. He killed himself. He didn't kill himself. He was off. Nobody wanted that list getting out. But with Diddy, he's still here. And I'm very interested. It's going to take a while for this case to get put together. So don't expect anything anytime soon when it comes. You're just going to keep those news reports rolling out. That's all you're going to get for a while until they can
The
build a
Diddy
case.
case is
But
definitely a social media juggernaut because it's the any day reports are going to continue for at least a couple of years. But
oh,
I
I
look
know.
at it, I look at it this way, and please, if I get, I'm curious your thoughts as we got about 3 minutes to go.
Okay.
I look at the Epstein case to be more billionaire slash
Yeah.
slash political,
Mhm.
whereas the Diddy case is more the celebrity type,
Mhm.
that could literally bring Hollywood to a standstill.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and like I said, I don't know if they were tied together. I mean, they could have been. It sounds like this weird underground group of elite people doing this stuff has been going on for a long time. So it's like I don't even know where it started and who are the players and where they all started and if they knew each other or played off of each other. But um, you know, yeah, Epstein, I see the more of the elite, the billionaires, not Jeff Bezos, but like the big guys like Elon Musk, those big billionaires that have no, all they have is stupid money to spend. I can see that one probably being more socially impactful because then it's going to get people more politically aware of it. Whereas P. Diddy's case is probably just going to be the headline news on TMZ. I don't think it's not going to have the social impact that the Epstein case would have, because then we'll start seeing our politicians and the people that who you're supposed to trust doing these horrible, awful things. So
Let's hope it comes out
yeah.
because that's the type of case that could really, I mean, if you want to talk about draining the swamp, that's the type of
Mhm.
case that would drain the swamp pretty quick if it
Yeah,
comes.
yeah, and I have a feeling a lot of people's heroes. I mean, look how crushed people were when they found out about Bill Cosby. You ain't seen nothing yet.
Oh, y-
I can't wait. I hope they do. I hope they do.
I hope it does too, and I'm curious and I can see why because people love drama and
Mhm,
the Epstein and Diddy files is complete drama. JFK, they're
mhm.
used to UFOs, they're not ready for. But that's why I think that the Epstein and Diddy files are going to be the bigger stories. 30 seconds to go, Winnie. Thank you for coming on Spaced Out Radio. Tell everybody where they can find your podcast.
Yeah, you can just go to my website at mysteriesmayhememerlo.net. Or you can find me on Rumble or YouTube at MMM Winnie Schrader. Or you can just like look Mysteries Mayhem Emerlo. But I'm also on my husband's Paranormal 60 network. Every Sunday my audio is up. But yeah, it's on his audio where you can whatever platform that you listen to, like Apple Podcasts, things like that. Spotify, you can find the paranormal60.com there.
Winnie Schrader, everybody, thank you so much. Swamp Dweller is next, and the UFO Report with Little Timmy James.
Thank you.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
All right, we are clear. Thank you so much, Win.
Oh, that was so much fun. Thank you for having me, and I'll hop on. Hey, if any of these stories break that we talked about tonight, just I'll reach out to you and get me on. We can talk about it at like in real
Absolutely.
time.
Absolutely. Let's
So,
do that. Let's keep in touch with that, and we'll make time for that.
okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you all listeners. It's been fun listening to your comments or seeing your comments and stuff. So thank you, and I'll see you guys hopefully soon.
Take care, Win.
Okay, bye-bye.
Good night to Dave for us, too. All right, we'll be right back, everybody. Okay, we're back. Unveiling Addiction. Welcome to SOR Chat. All right. Two minutes. 2 minutes. Let's get you set up here. I almost forgot to do that. Oh, get your microphone up there so people can hear you and I don't screw it up again. Hey, this will be 2 shows in a row I haven't screwed it up.
It's because you're on the ball, sir.
There you are.
There he is. Hey.
Mm-hmm.
Just before when he went off, I had a swig of water and had that, I'm going to breathe some in at the same time.
Oh, yeah. So you wanted to cough all this time?
I'm like,
oh, I hate that. I hate that. I've had that happen.
yeah, while you're reporting? Or
No, while I'm on the show, yeah. Thank you tonight to Major Lee ×7, Mel WD40 with the lube chat, Little Davy Schrader, Raven Hayes, Necessary Dialogue, and I missed that one somehow, and CS for the great super chats. Greatly appreciate your love and support, everybody. All right. We got all of that. And, Tim's head has a nice sheen to it today.
It does.
Nice sheen. Look at the camera, man.
Freshly buffed.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good thing I don't wear white t-shirt.
You would glow.
I know.
Uh-huh. All right, we got 7 seconds. Here we go with the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Good to have you with us as Swamp Dweller and Little Timmy James and Dealey are coming right up. But first, we want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Caligulous.
Oh.
Yeah, Caligulous is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's head to the swamp.
Hello and welcome to Spaced Out Radio's Swamp. I'm Swamp Dweller, and tonight I'm going to take you on a mystic journey of the unknown, sharing tales of monsters, legends, and nightmares. Welcome to the Spaced Out Radio Swamp. Hey Swamp Dweller, I do not have much of a story but a handful of experiences. I am in my late 20s now, and I have lived my whole life in the Midwest. Living in the Midwest is not that bad, but there are some times that I have felt very creeped out. When I let my dogs out in the middle of the night, somewhere between 2 and 4 a.m., there are some nights that there is just absolutely no sound at all. No wind, no insect noises, no bats flying around, and no cars driving on one of the highways a few miles away. During these nights, I feel my fight or flight kick up a bit, which is hard to do when you're trying to get your dogs to go to the bathroom, and they just stand in one spot sniffing the ground. I have heard before that when everything is quiet around you, there is a predator nearby. So on these nights, I try to be as silent as I can, while still hurrying my dogs to do their business. Sometimes it happens on a trash night, so I am taking it down to the curb. I am trying to hurry as much as I can as I live across from a field, and while I do not hear anything coming from the field, I try not to have my back to it for too long. It is always even worse when there is corn or something else that is tall growing. Another experience is when I'm again letting my dogs out. It is somewhere between 1 to 4 a.m., and in the distance, I can hear the wild pack of dogs that roams around where I live. I hate hearing them as it pulls at my heart. both with fear of them and concern for them. My dad always said when I mentioned them that they will not come near here. For some extra context, we do not live in the full country, but we do not live in the city or suburbs either. It's a pretty rural area. My dogs like to bark at everything they hear when we go out, so I always worried about how this might attract the wild pack when they are roaming closer to us than normal. There have been a handful of times when I have taken my dogs out, and as they go about their business, I stare at the sky. A handful of these times, I have noticed a light in the sky that flashes very slowly. I know that this is not one of those towers with the lights that blink on and off. For one, the light is way too high, like an airplane high. I also know that it's not an airplane or a helicopter as there is no noise accompanying it. Plus, an airplane has 3 lights that all blink with a certain tempo. I know it is probably a far-off star or something. The odd thing to me is how entrancing it was. This light blinked like it had a slow pulse. These are my experiences. They may not be in-your-face scary, but in the abstract, they were at the very least creepy. Swamp Dweller, if you read these experiences, thank you so much. Everyone should remember, if it suddenly gets quiet around you, you might not be alone.
Thank you, Swamp Dweller, for another crazy, spooky story. If you want more just like that, head on over to the YouTube channel, Swamp Dweller, and check it on out. Hit subscribe, ring that bell. He's got thousands of stories just like that. Let's head to the UFO report.
That is an interplanetary flying space saucer. You have made me very angry. Very angry indeed.
All right, we got little Timmy James in studio hanging out with us tonight as we're going to break down the UFO report. And Tim, welcome.
Well, thank you, sir.
I'm glad to have you here. I like it when you're here.
I like being here.
Yeah, big question
Mm-hmm.
coming from the chat room tonight.
Yes.
And it is, when you are in studio, this from Ethanol,
Okay.
wondering if Tim James stays the night at Dave's house when he's in studio.
We make up, Dave's got this other room in his house, and it's kind of like the man cave, and we make a fort out of the couch cushions, and that's where we sleep. Oh, was I not supposed to tell anybody?
Man, you're not allowed in the fort anymore. You are totally not allowed in the fort anymore.
Oh, sorry. I thought it was okay.
You know, certain things need to keep. What happens in the fort stays in the fort.
That's right. Sorry.
You know
that
what?
doesn't happen.
You know what? I gotta do that again with my boy.
Yes,
We haven't done that in a long, long time.
for
Just
sure.
build a fort with the couch and
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
I'm redoing my downstairs, my big room in the downstairs.
Mm-hmm.
I'm redoing that over the summer.
That'll be cool.
Yeah. And part of my plan with that is so we could do stuff like that. I want to get a new TV in that area.
Yeah.
And that way we can totally hang out and watch
Yeah, for sure.
hockey fights and
Yeah, get some Rock'em Sock'em Don Cherry videos on.
I don't know if he's ready for that because everything on those videos now is a penalty.
Yes, that's true. Right. Here comes Scott Stevens. Oh, another knockout.
Hockey season is winding down though, minor hockey season up here.
Yeah.
And my boy, he really worked hard tonight at practice.
Good for him.
Yeah. Yeah. He's like, Dad, did I work hard enough tonight? Did I work hard enough to earn an ice cream cone? Yeah, you did.
Good for him.
Yeah, you did. You know, it's funny though.
Mm.
You know, we all watch our kids grow.
Yes.
And it's one of the coolest, best things and saddest things at the same time.
Oh, totally.
And what's funny is when my son started the hockey season this year,
Mhm.
you know, he would maybe sweat a little bit.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And at the end of the season, he is drenched.
Mm-hmm.
Drenched. And he's starting to get body odor now. Like he's only 11, right?
Well, yeah, but
But he's just slowly starting to get the body odor now. And it's like, you know, son, there are certain things that we're going to have a talk about.
you
You're
be stanky.
Yeah. Yeah, you are a little stinky. You're almost at that age where you're going to start needing to shower after certain things.
Yes,
But,
for sure.
yeah.
Good for him. That's awesome.
All right, let's start the report. You got some news out of Canada.
Yeah, I got an email from my contact in the government, Luke Gauthier. Now, he said I'd emailed about, I think probably about a week ago, a little bit over a week ago, to see if there was any updates on the Sky Canada project and what have you. And it was funny. I got an email, like I was saying to you, late last night. It was either late last night or early this morning. I never checked the time, but he said, "Hey, there's some updates. There's a report done, and there's maybe some more interesting stuff that you might want to check out." I was like, "Great!" So I found some stuff, and I'm not 100% sure how promising this all sounds, but we'll see how it goes. So the Canadian government may take a long time to fully engage with the subject of UFO within Parliament. However, Mona Nima, Canada's chief science advisor, and her team have taken a significant first step by releasing the long-awaited Sky Canada Project recommendations report that I reported on possibly, January, I think it was. So the Sky Canada Project, if anybody's unsure what's going on, is an initiative examining UFO in Canada. The goal is to create a structured approach to researching, managing, and try to identify UFO within Canadian airspace while enhancing transparency between civilians and the government. However, the project's mandate is strictly limited to identifying and reporting aerial phenomena. It explicitly states that it will not investigate extraterrestrial life or personal experience reported by Canadians. A disclaimer on the project's website clarifies, it should be noted that the Sky Canada project is not intended to access and collect firsthand data like photos, testimonies, etc., nor is it intended to make the Ontario Community Support Association, the OCSA, the main point of contact for Canadians wishing to report observations or personal experiences. Furthermore, it is not meant to prove or disprove the existence of extraterrestrial life or extraterrestrial visitors. It adds. Okay, so I guess it's not going to have anything to do with ETs. So the Sky Canada Project recommendation report was released on the 15th of January, suggests that the Canadian government establish a dedicated federal body to control and analyze and publicly share UFO data. This would improve coordination among government agencies and encourage professionals like pilots, air traffic controllers to report UFO sightings without fear of stigma. Currently, Canada does not have a centralized system to document, record, or research UFOs. Still, the report suggests that the Canadian Space Agency, the CSA, will take on this task. Canada's chief science advisor also advocates developing apps and other digital tools to facilitate reporting and address misinformation about UFOs. Our mandate in the office of the chief science advisor is to provide advice to the government. Luke Gauthier, chief of staff to the office of the chief science advisor, told the debrief in an email, once our recommendations are delivered, it is up to the government to decide how and when to use them. Dun, dun, dun. We have no control over the implementation step, but we remain available to offer support. The Sky Canada project aims to establish a science-based collaborative approach to UFO research to foster public trust and address national security concerns. Sound familiar? A second report is scheduled for release later this year, after which Mona Nima and her team will leave the matter in the hands of the federal government for implementation. Our goal was to find the current resources and processes in place for handling and following up on UFO reports. to compare them with the best practices in other countries and to make recommendations for potential improvements. Niemer explained to CTV freelance reporter Daniel Otis. The preparation of this report has garnered more public anticipation than any project in the history of the office. Canadian UFO researcher and author Chris Rutkowski collected Canadian UFO reports from 1999 to 2022. After Transport Canada, the National Research Council, after which the RCMP decided to get out of the UFO business, Rutkowski said in a phone call, Transport Canada explained they had begun sending me UFO reports as a way to support my research into the subject. When the volume of access to information requests about UFO from the general public reached unmanageable levels within Transport Canada, beginning in 2021, because of increased public interest, following American political attention already stretched thin, staff had to shift priorities and focus more on other Transport Canada activities rather than continue supporting UFO issues. As a consequence, the process of proving me with UFO case information was stopped. Rutkowski said, in true Canadian fashion, Rutkowski preserved an archive of these reports for years and has publicly shared them throughout his career within books and other resources, ensuring transparency and access to all Canadians. In recent days, Rutkowski has worked alongside Sky Canada project team to help preserve Canadian UFO history by keeping a stream of information flowing. The Sky Canada project requested a meeting to discuss my research on UFO and to solicit my recommendations for a methodological approach to studying UFO, notes Rutkowski. I was one of the individuals listed as a consultant in the OCSA preview report when it was published in January 2025. I continue to be in conversation with members of the OCSA Sky Canada team project. So it sounds kind of like we expected. It was going to be a handoff. We were wondering if this was going to go and this was going to fly. And it almost, not to be a downer, it almost sounded too good to be true and that we were going to take a different approach than the States did. But yeah, kind of fell out of here's our recommendations and here the federal government will decide.
There's a lot of what ifs with this.
I know.
I do not see this project coming out.
Right.
And let me explain why for a second, because I think this is important to take a few minutes to discuss this.
Yes.
Number one, the Canadian government is in limbo right now. Okay. The Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, his resignation comes up in a couple of weeks, which many Canadians are very proud of.
Yes.
Some are crying their tears, but we'll drink those tears.
Yep.
That's for sure. Number one. Number two, with that, there has to be new leadership that has to be voted in, which the Liberal Party of Canada, which is in the prime ministerial seat, has to make a decision on who Trudeau's replacement will be. Follow that up where when Parliament does get back to work after 6 months of literally not having a government run this country.
Yeah.
What will happen then is we have to see if an election is going to be called.
Right.
Then, because of the economy, because of the threat of tariffs and, all this crap about the 51st state and everything that goes along with that, now we are getting into some real important things. I'm not saying UFOs are not important. They're highly important to us.
Yes, for sure.
Okay. But there's going to be a lot more to focus on in the first year to 2 years if there is a change in government. Well, let me rephrase that, because there is going to be a change in government. But it depends on who gets in, how the vote goes, and if certain parties get in, or if we have a minority government again,
right,
that is going to be very, very difficult to try and get this through. The Liberal government over the last few years, even though Justin Trudeau has been read in at minimum 3 to 5 times
Right.
on this subject, has never discussed it publicly. It has only been members of parliament from the Canadian Conservative Party that have had this discussion, spearheaded by member of parliament Larry Maguire, who has been a previous guest on this show. That being said, I could see the topic being dropped. Okay. There are so many different political topics that need to be fixed, or at least attempted to be fixed, before UFOs comes up. This is going to get buried in the sand very quickly. And I hate saying that. I do, because I really feel that they are going to be pressed, depending on which party gets in at the election time. They are going to be pressed to fix whatever they feel needs to be fixed.
Oh, yeah.
Whether it's the economy, whether it's dealing with the tariffs and the threats of tariffs, whether it is the carbon tax debacle, whether it is, forestry, whether it's mining, whether it's oil and gas. I mean, Canada is a resource-driven country. And if you do not have places to send those resources, you're going to get stuck with them, and that's going to eliminate jobs.
Sure.
Add to the fact that Canada has the worst deficit and debt it has ever had in its history. That is a very tough topic to all of a sudden say, oh, by the way, let's get into the UFOs. Okay? Because nobody's buying up here. Nobody is buying anything up here right now. And if you work in retail, you are struggling.
Yes.
You are struggling big time
through
through a very long, dark winter that could continue financially for a lot of people.
Yes.
And for our American listeners who don't understand the amount of debt Canadians have racked up. So if you go to the G7 nation, the Canadian average of debt is 103% above their income.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
103% above their income. So imagine if you make $100,000 a year, you are $203,000 in debt before your mortgage.
Yeah.
That's how bad the Canadian economy is right now. So we're going to see how that works. We're going to see how it plays out. But I could see this report being scuttled because of the importance of everything else leading up to this.
Now, question then. Okay. So now I'm wondering, I agree with you about the report, but my question is okay, ticking off those boxes, tariffs, inflation, all those boxes that everybody up here in Canada is concerned about. Okay, fair enough. Do you not think that ticking off the Sky Canada project maybe fall flat on its face, but ticking off that box somewhere in that list and saying, and we'd like to get, I hate it, disclosure, or we'd like to be a little more transparent on this UFO situation, following in quote unquote the steps of our neighbors, the south of us. Do you not think that may also help push that party to become a front runner?
No,
eh?
I don't think it's going to be an election issue whatsoever.
I was just curious. I was just wondering what you thought was.
Because here's the thing. The minimal amount that Canada has on defense spending right now, which doesn't even equate to 2% of their contract with NATO and the Five Eyes.
Okay.
That's why they're looking at booting Canada from the Five Eyes.
Right.
Because we're not spending the money on it. Okay. To protect what we need to protect, which is 3 coastlines.
Yeah.
That China and Russia have access to very easily.
Super easy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that being said, the fact that we are not holding our weight, I don't think gives the Canadian scientific community or the military community any type of leeway to all of a sudden go robust and rogue and allow them to all of a sudden dictate the role of ufology. Right. Do I think the American government would care? Overall, no. but it would be a thorn in their side that, geez, Canada just released this and we're not releasing anything yet.
Yeah.
I still think the U.S. has major control over that story and what happens, and it's not going to make a difference. But we're going to continue with the UFO report with Jimmy James in studio. We'll be right back.
This is Spaced Out Radio, and your host, Dave Scott.
I often wondered
I was gonna say that's a long 7 seconds.
what would happen if all of a sudden, you go to your pause for the commercial break.
Mhm.
All of a sudden, you just came back with a giant belch.
I don't know. Maybe we should try it.
I haven't had a good belch in a long time. Like one of those,
Right from the diaphragm.
right from the diaphragm. I haven't had a good one like that in a long time. My daughter, oh, she can belch.
Yeah, mine too. It's like, what the heck?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Always high five or two. Nice one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The missus, she hated that. Why did you teach her to do all that stuff? Why not? That's not very ladylike. Now the missus does it all the time, right? It's like, yeah, there we go.
Mm-hmm.
I was a bad influence.
Mm-hmm. That's the way it goes.
Yeah.
You bad influence, you.
Hey, what can I say? I am who I am.
Well, this is going to be a long 4 minutes.
Is it?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know. Oh, man. Oh.
Yes, we had all the new management show up today.
Oh, nice. How'd that go?
I like them, because I know them, so it's okay. But it's so funny watching them take themselves so seriously so soon. It's like, pump the brakes, man. It's like, all right, now we've got to do a site inspection, and we're going to check for affluents in the oil water separators. And it's like, shut up. We're going to pull the cap off and have a look and make sure that there's no fuel leaking in it. Oh my God. Now, do you guys always inspect your fire extinguishers? Yeah. It's a bulk plant.
You work with gasoline. Of course you're going to.
Right. Do you know where your muster station is? I was like, the opposite direction of where the fire starts, man, because if it gets going, I ain't hanging around.
Mm-hmm.
We're out of here.
That'd be quite the kaboom.
Oh, I'll be going. Trucks. Whoop, I'm out of there.
How much time do you think you would have if a fire started?
Before it went kaboom?
Yeah.
Probably.
Because that's going to take out a couple of blocks.
Easily. But they're double wall steel tanks. So I would probably think maybe 10 minutes. Depends on how, what type of fire it is. But yeah, 10 minutes. Get in the truck and go. Hide behind Save On.
You might get shrapnel there.
I know, hot chunks of steel. Get all the kids out of the playground. Go.
I can tell you right now, if I worked at where you work,
mm-hmm.
and there was a threat of a kaboom,
mm-hmm.
I am heading down Exeter towards the mill.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that too.
Yeah.
Get down in the curves and.
Oh, I'm going right back up onto the gravel road, man.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Oh yeah.
Get buried in the forest.
Yep. Because that's going to be one hell of a kaboom.
Yes. My gosh, yeah, thinking about it. The amount of fuel that's on that site at one time is just ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. We got a minute.
So, what'd you do today? Oh, you went half day yesterday, didn't you?
No, I left at 4.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah, one of my employees decided to call in and use another sick day because he didn't have daycare. He's a single dad, didn't have daycare. So I made him buy me lunch today.
Damn straight.
Yeah. I said, "You're buying me lunch today." He goes, "Why?" I said, "Because I was supposed to have yesterday off, and then you called in. And I really need a day off."
I was in the hospital for 8 hours.
Right? And he's like, "Oh," I said, so he came up to me actually about 10 minutes later. He comes up, "I'm going to get lunch. What would you like?" So I got lunch. Thank you to Major Lee ×7, Mel WD40, Dave, Raven, CS, and Necessary Dialogue for the super chats. Really appreciate the love, everybody. Really do. And here we go. Here we go with the final half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. We always appreciate your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Reminder to all of you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio 4 Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Little Timmy James is here for the UFO report. Good to have you here.
Thank you.
All right. We talked about the Sky Canada project right before the break. What do we got going on now?
Well, I thought I'd dig into it a little further and see if Larry Maguire had anything to say about this. Member of Parliament up here, very vocal on all of it. And like Dave said, been a guest on the show. And sure enough, Larry had something to say about the recent report on the Sky Canada project. So Larry starts off, he says, I wish I could say I'm optimistic about the federal government acting on this recommendation. So given the overall lack of attention this issue is garnered by top ministers, I expect that more calls to action from the public and experts will be needed to keep the ball rolling. So basically, you nailed it. If I could urge even a small step forward, the report's first recommendation to identify a lead is perhaps the most necessary. Given the ongoing Liberal leadership race, I strongly recommend that the media begin asking the candidates whether they plan to implement the recommendation, as the winner will ultimately become the next prime minister. So he was asked, do you support the recommendation to make UFO data publicly available to enhance scientific study and public trust? What level of transparency should Canadians expect? And Larry responded, yes, I support that recommendation. There are so many unanswered questions around UFO, and we need all hands on deck to analyze this data. When national security considerations may be triggered, any government will rightly need to be sensitive to that. But ideally, we have an openness by default sort of situation. So the report notes that the UAP reports are only investigated if they pose safety or security risks. Should Canada adopt a more proactive approach to UFO analysis, even when there is no immediate threat? And he says, yeah, it would be fantastic to see greater attention paid to reports, even when there's no immediate safety or security risk. This is, again, about data collection and transparency. If we're collecting this data, even if there's nothing actionable at the moment, it can be shared with the public, both for the purposes of analysts analysis and to combat misinformation and disinformation that sometimes arises when there's an information vacuum, as we've all known with drones and everything else that's been going on. Do you believe Canada's current handling of the UFO adequately addresses potential national security concerns? How could it be improved? There is a significant lack of transparency regarding what our government does with UFO reports and the steps that they take to investigate them. Prime example is how the Department of National Defense handled the information surrounding the object shot down by the Americans over the Yukon in 2023. As I've highlighted before, having a designated lead would make a world of difference. For the first time, we would have someone responsible for collecting data, investigating it, and most importantly, sharing that information and their findings with the public. So Larry's 2 cents, and yeah, sounds like Larry, right?
It does sound like Larry. It totally does sound like Larry. But, here's the thing, too. Larry's been a fan of this subject for about 6 years.
Okay.
And he wants to know what Canada knows. And he's surrounded himself with very good people who have an understanding of what this might be and what is going on. So, I mean, the fact that Larry is going after this is great. But like I said in the last half hour, I don't think that he fully comprehends the idea that it's going to be as easy as he thinks it's going to be.
No, I would say you're right there. And yeah, like I see, it sounds like Larry, and good on him. I mean, I don't think the guy would stretch the truth or bend the truth. I think he just shoots straight from the hip. He's a straight shooter, and anything that I've read or anything that I've listened to or watched with him, he's just up front with it, right? And he just has it. He's a good representative as far as I'm concerned. He's not a basher. He's not sarcastic. He just lays it out. This is what we need to do. And yeah, for me, I appreciate that. That's somebody that I pay attention to, right?
And I pay attention too. I think you have to. And I know there are other members of Parliament in Canada who really want this subject to come out.
Right.
But like I said, there's a lot of issues going on with Parliament, with the election that's pending this year, and the economy and everything that goes along with that is causing a lot of trouble right now.
Yeah.
And like I said, I believe that this subject is going to be pushed right to the back burner. Or if it does get released, if there is a chance that it does get released, it's going to be one of those things that just shows up one day.
Right.
That's the Canadian way.
It is, isn't it?
It'll show up on the Friday of a long weekend.
Yeah.
That nobody is paying attention.
No, because the ferries to the island, something's broken down.
Yeah. That's exactly it. So I think it's in for a little bit of a surprise and a little bit of a, of disappointment.
I think so.
And I feel for people like Chris Rutkowski and others who have been on that list helping on out. I do feel for that, for them, because they have been working hard with their due diligence. I don't like the idea that they are going strictly on the UFOs.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
I don't like that fact because this subject is so much more than UFOs. But I also understand the starting point. Just like in the US, for years we've been hearing since 2017, and I had people telling me, Dave, we cannot talk about aliens. We can't talk about ET contact. We can't talk about anything of the like, the consciousness aspect, the hybridization program. Well, 8 years later, look where we are. We're talking about it.
Yeah.
We're into psionics now, right? Whereas the Canadian government is just getting started on this. So the Canadian government is about 8 years behind the United States.
Oh, of course.
So
yeah, totally.
What else you got for us?
Well, just wondering, have you ever heard of the Soviet Roswell? It was called Height 611. So I was reading and I just found it really interesting because we're always talking about Canada and America and the United States. And I found this thing that happened in Russia quite a few years ago. And I thought, okay, I'm going to check this out. So this basically the Soviet files, mystery of Russia's Roswell, where blazing red orb UFO crashed into a mountain before being covered up by the Soviet Union at the time. A rare substance only found in labs was collected from the crash site. So this was called Height 611, is the mountainside where locals watched a blazing red ball fly half a mile above ground suddenly plunge to Earth in the 1980s. The strike, dubbed Russia's Roswell incident after the famous 1947 New Mexico UFO incident, was set upon by Soviet scientists who made some remarkable discoveries. Locals descended on the crater near Dalinsk in Russia's far east and harvested otherworldly metallic droplets with an unexplained chemical composition. The only thing that could cut through the mysterious material was a diamond saw blade. So now, 39 years later, British investigator Philip Mantle has dubbed the incident the Russian Roswell. His book, written alongside Paul Stonehill, has revealed eerie new details about the crash on January 29th, 1986. So Mantle, a former director of investigations for the British UFO Research Association, stated, "There are some of our colleagues that believe that Russia has alien technology from this event, but as yet, they have not been able to understand it, just like their counterparts with the Roswell." In 1947, various witnesses watched the crash landing and recorded what they saw. Evgeny Seberov, a schoolboy at the time, saw the object zoom down to Earth and said it did not have a tail. And Mr. Korotko, editor of a local newspaper, was near the mountain during the UFO crash. He wrote, "Out of the corner of my eye, I saw something that fell on the mountain. There was an indistinct impact, not reverberating, but quite strong. The noise lasted less than a second. There was no explosion and large reddish-white flames. It seemed something was engulfed in a powerful fire. The sphere was approximately 1 meter in diameter, and the fire roared." A mechanic, Viktor Kondlakov, was at a local bus station and saw the UFO zip over a small mining town. He said it was round, without any protrusions or holes, and looked like it was made from metal resembling stainless steel. Mikhail Gerstein, Russia's top UFO researcher, said lots of witnesses compared the fire burning at the site to electrical welding. On February 2nd, 1986, days after the impact, local school children searched the site and found a burned tree stump, a hole in the ground, and branches that had been sheared off by the falling object. They collected rocks and debris alongside melted drops of a peculiar substance with a metallic tint and took everything to a local museum. Valery Duzhnilhi, its director began studying the material and drafted in Viktor Berslov, a local meteorite expert. Frustrated by the lack of answers, he decided to lead a team of scientists up the mountain himself. He later described to journalists how the UFO blew apart a huge chunk of rock where it landed, about 2 cubic meters, and that 10 square meters of snow had evaporated at the site. Vegetation had been burnt away and the ground was scorched by the blaze. Combing through the ground turned up 30 grams of the same unusual substance, formed into dark, solidified droplets. Valery took his discoveries to a high-tech lab which discovered an incredible alloy of lead and up to 17 other elements. Analysis showed the material had a metallic glass structure, something very rarely found in nature. The specimens collected at the site were later dubbed tiny nets or mesh, little balls, lead balls, and glass pieces. Closer examination revealed highly unusual properties. One of these tiny nets contained torn and very thin threads, and each of the threads consisted of even thinner fibers tied up in plates. Intertwined with the fibers were very thin gold wires. When scientists tried to straighten out one of the loops to be able to see it better, the loop mysteriously disappeared altogether. Alexei Kulkov, a Russian doctor of geological mineral sciences, said the drops resembled glassy carbon, but couldn't explain how it was created. Further UFO sightings were reported that summer in the region by pilots and personnel of a local military airbase. Author Philip, no first name, 66 of West Yorkshire said, there seems to be a consensus of opinion that Hill 611 crash may well have a conventional explanation, but exactly what remains to be seen. Other researchers tend to disagree, of course. It does have its parallels in the West, the Roswell case being one of them. Irrespective of that, it is a fascinating case which is sure to divulge more information and more theories in the years to come.
I like it.
Yeah. Russia. Or the USSR.
Back in the day.
You betcha. You betcha. So, what else have I got?
We got about 6 minutes.
Yeah. All right. So, I think I have a nice and easy one that'll everybody would like. This is, from 1976 in Kentucky. So, a sinister series of events, excuse me, saw 3 women abducted by unseen forces in one of Kentucky's most chilling cases. The strangeness began on a winter evening in 1976 when 3 friends, Mona, Louise, and Elaine, had been driving home, a journey of 35 miles from Liberty, Kentucky, where they had enjoyed a meal at a restaurant to celebrate Mona's birthday. At around 11:15 p.m., they noticed a strange red object in the sky that they initially thought to be an airplane, but that quickly turned out to be something a lot bigger and a lot more sinister. Over the next few minutes, the object seemed to toy with their vehicle, first appearing 100 yards ahead and then circling back around and showing up behind them with a blue light instead of red. Suddenly, Louise, who had been driving, found that she was no longer able to control her car. Some unseen force had taken over and was accelerating the vehicle up to speeds of 85 miles an hour. The women felt their eyes burning as everything seemed to fade away. The next thing they knew, they were 8 miles away on the outskirts of Houstonville, and the clock showed that it was now 20 minutes later, with none of the women recalling what had happened. They quickly discovered that they had sustained mysterious burn marks on their bodies, and Louise found that her watch had started to spin uncontrollably. Later, it turned out that local authorities had received several UFO reports from other individuals on the same evening, and all 3 women passed lie detector tests about their experience. They even underwent hypnotic regression in an effort to find out what happened and recall encountering strange, shadowy entities and who abducted and examined them. To date, no definitive explanation for their experiences has ever been forthcoming.
That's just scary.
I know, right?
That's just scary.
It's always that driving along at night. It's like those campfire stories.
To tie this into the whole Canadian story, whether it's the one in the USSR, their version of Roswell, or this story that you just told, the one thing that they both have in common is common people had an experience.
Right.
And I think it is very naive, whether it's Canada, the United States, any government of the world, to continue to downplay these experiences that are happening to people.
Yeah.
Why can't they just admit that they are happening? What is the big scary story? You know what it is? It's embarrassment.
Sure.
They're embarrassed to talk about the UFO story.
Mm-hmm.
They are embarrassed by the fact that, people are going to make fun of them.
Yeah.
All right. We made fun of a lot of things in this world, man. But you know what? When people get used to the conversation, they stop making fun of it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Not, yeah, you're going to hear the little green men. You're going to hear swamp grass. You're going to hear anal probing.
Yeah.
Those are the big three.
Yeah.
If you as a government cannot get over those three to bring the subject out, shame on you.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Shame on you.
Mm-hmm.
Have the proof.
No, you're
Right?
right.
I mean, I will tell you this. The media, when they were covering the last UFO hearings,
Mm-hmm.
they didn't laugh at the fact when Anna Paulina Luna, or I believe it was Lauren Boebert, pardon me, started asking questions about the hybridization program.
Right.
Nobody laughed. A number of them didn't cover it,
Mm-hmm.
but a number of them were like, oh my God, I can't believe she asked that. Is that
Mhm.
actually going on?
Right.
Is this part of the secret? They took it seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if the Canadian media had any cojones to actually look at this, they would realize that there is a story there.
Yeah.
Okay. And I realize you have to take baby steps. And that's what they're
Yes.
doing with Sky Canada by the whole UAP crap. Okay. UAPs are man made objects, UFOs are not.
Right.
So, what are you looking for?
Mm.
Number one. Number two, this isn't about green men. It isn't about Venus, swamp gas,
No.
or anything like that. Lord knows we have enough swamps around here that we haven't seen any gas coming off of.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely. See, and my thing is too is you're right. I think that the average Joe story has been taken. That's been I don't know if it's systematically removed from the whole concept, but I've thought about that a few times, and I've thought, you know what? You get the Air Force and you get the Navy and you get the Army, whatever the case may be, some sort of armed forces. And maybe I'm stating the obvious, but when you're a government employee in one of those entities, in one of those jobs, it's pretty easy for your boss to say, shut up, right? So they can control how that's put out. But they can't control you and I when we want to tell our story, but your media's got to come and help.
Well, I mean, the big thing with that too is people's stories. There's going to be the 15 minutes of fame people,
Of course.
who are going to completely exaggerate the story.
Mhm.
That's what they're trying to stay away from.
Sure.
And I can understand that. Let's
Yep.
take baby steps. Let's get it into the conversation,
Mhm.
go from there. But to absolute denial
Yes.
that it's happening,
Fair enough.
I think that is completely illogical.
Mhm.
Completely.
No, you're right.
All right, Tim, thank you for a great UFO report. Always appreciate you. As we say, Mr. Ron Bowman, rocking in the background with Little Brothers watching. It's our God himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, Elgin, Facebook, Sniper, LinkedIn, Space Travelers Club, and on X, # Space Travel Radio.
I know you're out there somewhere.
Remember, this show is copyright by Space Travel Radio and SUR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us.
Stay
Because
and
together,
don't
my
make a
friends,
mistake. We're watching.
We own the dice.
We watched you
It's
fall so long.
We need a
Want
big
you to fall.
We need
We'll expose
Let's
you.
go.
I know you're out there somewhere. Watching me.
Yes, the Will Train has docked for the night. Soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Seats are on the table. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, you've got room for them too. Good night, everybody. Good job, Timmy.
Thanks, Davey.
Good job. Congratulations on a good show.
Yes, you too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Winnie's fun. I like listening to her.
Yeah, she is good. She's very good. Yes, we know, Zenzabil. We are working on it. That it's a
music.
it's a StreamYard bleed. StreamYard does not play both sets of audio very well together. So I'm going to hopefully this weekend get on the audio and try and bring it down a little bit to see. Go from there. If you listen to the podcast version of the show, it only happens on YouTube. But if you listen to the podcast version of the show, it's completely clear.
Oh.
Yeah. All right. Feb 26, 25.
Boom, boom, boom. Excuse me.
Oh, fuck off. I hate it when my fingers stop working.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we were worried. Got to get all year end done by Friday. So lots of typing, and both my middle fingers, I've got trigger finger. And once I've been typing for too long, they both start locking up and they don't come back. Drive your knuckles into like 7 keys at once. My rear end. I said year end, monk. Rear end.
I'm having a mind blank.
Give it a sec. Wait till you get to my age.
You're old.
I know. That's what I mean.
You are old.
I'm older than dirt.
Mm-hmm. You're the kind of old that people never want to get. JSCO, yes, we are aware of the audio issue. And we're very aware of the bleed that goes in. We have to try and fix that. We also know that on the podcast side, so if you go on and listen to the show, it sounds absolutely perfect.
Mm-hmm.
It is a StreamYard issue that is very well known of the the bleeding of audio, that when you get two or more sets of audio at once, it's just like when you have say you're doing a round table and you have two or three people talking at once, it bleeds them out.
Yeah.
So that is a StreamYard issue. And that's what we're trying to fix.
And isn't that weird? Because StreamYard promotes, what is it, like 10 people in a chat or something like that? It just, muddies the water huge.
Yeah. It's the only thing that sucks about the program.
Yeah, because otherwise it's easy to use, and it's got some very cool tools involved with it as well.
Yeah. All right. Where am I? Right here, I guess. Yes, it's there. Should be there.
What was that?
That was my stomach.
Okay.
I'm debating whether or not to have
Cereal.
Have my bedtime snack.
Yeah.
It is Lucky Charms.
Well, they're magically delicious.
Very magically delicious.
Did you ever notice that they've got more marshmallows in cereal as you grew up as a kid?
I remember the original Lucky Charms. You were lucky to get like 20 Lucky Charms in a box.
Yeah.
And now, it's a good 33%.
Yeah. And that the little leprechaun or what, Lucky, I think there was only 5 styles of marshmallows when I was a little kid. And you couldn't get it in Canada.
Not for the longest time.
No, you had to go across. We had to go, well, when we were in Bellingham or Blaine or wherever, it was like, oh, we're in the States. We can get cool stuff. Captain Crunch.
Oh, Count Chocula.
My brother's favorite.
And Boo Berry. Remember the Boo Berries?
Yep. Oh, my brother loved Count Chocula.
Mm-hmm. According to Tim Mothman and his goatee, eBay, you can buy all the marshmallows.
Just the marshmallows.
Just the marshmallows.
Imagine, how the hell does that happen?
I don't know.
Some guy in a factory or some guy at his kitchen table picking marshmallows. I can sell these. I don't know. I'm tired. I'm just like, what the? It's like those YouTube reels where you see those other countries and the street food, and it's like, ooh, no.
You know what's funny is when you see other countries have things that you don't, and you're like, why do we not have that?
Oh yeah,
like it's like the Jeep trucks.
Mm-hmm.
What are they called? The Comanches or whatever they're called?
Commanders or something like that. I don't know. Yeah.
Did you know they had been in service in the Middle East for like 10, 15 years?
Oh, of course.
And like the Taliban was literally putting 50 caliber machine guns attached to the back of them. And anti-aircraft guns.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was quite wild, to be blunt.
Yeah.
Like, why don't we have these here? Not with the machine guns, but...
No, exactly. Well, it's like all those left-hand or the right-hand drive vehicles that you like, right?
I love those little trucks. I want one so
I know. But they've been all over Vietnam and everything since like what, the 60s? And
I know.
Yeah, Asia, Southeast Asia.
I want to paint one. I want to do it right though. Like I want to get it like a nice paint job on it, in like SOR colors.
But it's got to be 4-wheel drive.
Got to be 4-wheel drive.
Yeah.
You can't. They're hard to find, but you can actually find the ones that are not right-handed driving.
Holy.
Because that kind of freaks me out driving from the other side of the cabin.
For sure.
I don't like that feeling.
No. I mean, if I ever went to England or anything like that, I'd never drive there.
Oh, me either.
I'd kill somebody.
Yeah.
Right?
I would agree.
No. I know apparently my stepfather, well, he was an expert at everything, and he'd let you know one of those guys. But yeah, my mom said they went and toured all over Europe. I think I was 17 or something. So they spent like a month and a half in Europe, and to Holland and England and Paris. They went all over the place. And my stepfather, oh, I can drive these cars. Mom says we almost died like 900 times. Right? You can't do that. No, you can't turn right on a red light here, and you're in the wrong lane. And oh God, I'm like,
I would totally be that guy.
no, I'll take a cab.
Hi, Thurston Howell III. Thank you, Uber.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Thank you, Uber. Oh, itchy ear.
And the other thing too is I've noticed that obviously, I mean, Canada and the United States, the roads are very similar in the way that they're marked and they're painted. But in like England, I don't understand the squiggles.
I know.
What the hell's with
Yeah.
the squiggle?
Yeah, for our European, especially our UK people, what the hell are the zigzags?
What's the deal with the squiggle?
What's with the zigzags on the streets? Like, why can't they just put a straight line? I don't get that. You can't tell me we don't have one single British person in here today.
Yeah. Come on.
Please answer. That's a serious question.
Yeah, it's serious. I need an answer to that because it's
Philip Blair says, I've driven in Canada, no problem.
well, Paul and I used to drive and
According to Lex Diaz, Dave is gay.
are you?
I'm happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, good. As long as you're happy, man. I don't care.
Mm-hmm. Whether or not that actually is relevant to our chat room, I don't know.
Me either.
Apparently now it's Dave isn't straight. I have no idea where this is coming from. But sorry, Dave.
Do you know what's really cool?
Oh, hold on. Zigzag mean, according to Body Tech, zigzag means no parking or stopping.
Okay. All right. Well,
so the Jaws teeth means if you stop here, you're going to be eaten.
Yeah. Well, whatever works, right? That's interesting. I would never have known that.
I would have never known that either.
Now, when you're here, obviously, when you're driving here, or just say down in the city, go down to Vancouver, traffic circles. How are you with traffic circles?
How am I?
Yeah.
I'm fine with them.
They're stupid though, right?
Roundabouts, I hate them.
Yeah.
But
So now imagine doing one in England. You're on the wrong side of the road. Well, for us, the wrong side of the road. You're going in the wrong direction. All the people in England are going,
oh my gosh.
What's this guy doing?
I don't even want to think about that.
Bloody hell.
Apparently, if you stop, you will get a ticket.
I mean, okay, I'm not being a smart ass. So if you stop there, you get a ticket. What are they got like cops hiding in doorways as soon as you stop in that zone, or meter maids or something?
I have no idea.
That only happens in Richmond. They hide in banks and watch you park and not pay, and then they run out and tag your car.
When I worked in downtown Vancouver, I figured it out. All you have to do is you wait till there's no traffic. Like if your meter runs out or close to running out, what you do is, because they chalk your tires.
Yes, I know that.
So what you do is you wait till there's nobody around you, and then you pull the car out, re-parallel park it, and your tires will never be the same. Now you're good for another 2 hours.
Oh, very good.
Yeah. It's one thing I hated when I worked for the radio station. I didn't like my first news director, like the manager of the radio station.
Yeah.
Him and I never saw eye to eye.
Right.
He never told
Was
me.
he taller than you?
No.
Oh.
No. He was addicted to firing people.
Oh, one of those. Those are awesome guys. Yep.
And just an arrogant, pompous Napoleon type attitude, right?
Yep.
And I got the final word in when I quit a few years later. Apparently it didn't go over very well when I told him that, because he told me, we don't need a full-time sports journalist. It'll never work at this station. And then I created the position.
Oh,
and it worked.
Yep.
So long story short, this asshole that I worked for at the time, he never told me that because I was using my own vehicle for reporting, that I got so many kilometers per
whatever you're doing for
like
work.
50 cents. I think it was 44 cents a kilometer.
Oh, okay.
Right.
It's not bad.
And he never told me that. So here I was losing out on money and paying my own gas.
Yeah. No.
And so when our new news director come in, I said, can I get a car? Can I get one of the reporters' cars? Because I'm always on the road.
Mm.
And she's like, no, you got to use your own vehicle. We don't have a car for you.
Mm.
I said, well, is there any way that you can help me out with a tank of fuel a week or something?
Yeah.
She goes, weren't we?
Huh.
I'm like, no.
You haven't been submitting?
I said, nobody has ever told me this. And at that time, I'd been there 3 years.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, 3 years I'd been there.
Wow. I'd like this all retro, please. Here are all my receipts.
Mm-hmm. So after that, I was filling up my car twice, 3 times a week.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't feel guilty about it.
No. Well, no.
Did not feel guilty at all about it.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. I believe it's, what is it, 1.6 miles in a kilometer? Or 1.3 miles in a kilometer?
I think
or is it 1 kilometer is one? Okay.
Yeah, you got to Google.
How many miles
In
a kilometer? Oh, pardon me, 0.62. 1 kilometer is 0.621371.
Okay. Hang on.
Yeah, that makes sense because 100 kilometers an hour is 62 miles an hour.
Yes. Okay, gotcha.
So that makes sense. That does make sense. It doth make sense.
It doeth. Doeth on Marie. Okay. I'm just doing the same thing.
All right. Thank you tonight to Major Lee ×7, Mel WD40, Dave Schrader, Raven, CS, and Necessary Dialogue for the wonderful super chats tonight. Greatly appreciate the love, everybody. I really do. And tomorrow night on the show, Josh Rutledge is going to join us. We're going to be talking UFOs all night long. And hope you join us. If you're new here, don't forget to hit subscribe, ring that bell. We will talk to you all tomorrow night, everybody. Have a good night.
healthy, my friend.
You too.
If you need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.